are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Lorebeards 40,000. Today, we are going to be looking at some Imperial Guard regiments and ranking them.
Heck yeah. And we're going to be ranking them on count them, three different things. If somebody gets that reference, they're a hero. So we're going to... Somebody is going to get my references at some point and be like, Alexis, you might be stupid. I'm going to giggle about it. But we have three different things that we're going to tier them on, which is how cool they are, how relevant they are. And what was the third one?
Lore.
I said a third.
Lore.
And their lore. Are they
Yes.
cool in the lore?
Relevance, coolness, and lore. Well, I think the cool factor has to be like more about their tactics and their visuals, right?
Yeah.
If the lore is a separate thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. I was thinking more of like models and things like that, and I don't know why, but my computer decided that I am as bright as a living saint. It is not this bright in here.
So is that from a song lyric? The three, count them three?
No, it's from SpongeBob.
That's why. Okay. I was like, I think it's a song lyric. Oh my god.
Count them three.
So, fun fact: when I was actually playing Final Liberation on stream this week, which has a lot of guard stuff in it. It is basically a version of Epic 40k where you play as basically you're the Imperial Guard with a few Space Marine allies and a few Titans against orcs. And the orcs, by God, all the cool orc shit they have in that game is astounding. They have Weird Boy Towers, they have Gargants, they have Stompas, they have
bring this stuff back, Games Workshop.
Pulsar rockets and lifted droppers and cannon speeds. There's all these really weird like tanks and stuff. But we were discussing different Imperial Guard units, and somebody brought up the fact that what we need like a Japanese cultural themed guard unit. And I was like, oh, that would be really cool. But the one that leapt out at me is we were discussing like a new type of Rough Rider, because the Rough Riders are not a lot of fun, and I don't particularly like them. And we were saying it'd be really cool is to get something like of almost like East Indian flavor, and they ride like giant tigers, or they ride some kind of axe beak avian, flightless avian.
Yeah,
and
really cool.
and make them a melee unit so that the mount is really doing most of the work.
I mean,
outside of the charge.
The Talon Desert Raiders used to have like weird, almost dinosaur-looking things that they rode. That's pretty cool. But yeah, a Japanese-themed like guard regiment would be really cool.
Yeah, and I would like to see more Sentinel variants, more. The Chimera badly needs an update.
Yes,
and so something I thought you would get a kick out of is we were also just saying that the Dark Eldar need a full refresh on their range, like just a complete refresh.
The Dark Eldar getting a full range refresh. I think a lot of them hold up okay. I do wish the Raider had a goddamn base that matched its shape.
A glow up would be really nice, because just most of the models are ugly. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Final Liberation, as cool as it is. We're not here to talk about the Dark Eldar, the Drukhari, even though they are cool. We're here to talk about and rank some Imperial Guard regiments.
Hell yeah. I'm excited about this one because Guard, if you guys don't know, Guard is very, very near and dear to my heart. I love the Sola Auxilia, which would eventually be the Imperial Army is what the Guard is. The Sola Auxilia is what inspired the Tempestus Scions and the Kasserkin. But I absolutely love the idea that in this universe of crazy, super strong aliens that can tear you in half, space marines that are essentially genetically altered super gorillas, elves that can move fast enough to dodge bullets. You just got like Gary over here with a gun and just like, yeah, that fungus gorilla is gonna die.
The fungus gorilla being an orc, right?
Yep. That giant bug that came over the line and ate Fred. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot it. And essentially I think the original inspiration for like the las gun was just a simple trench warfare rifles, which then became a laser rifle, which GW accidentally stumbled into the most efficient laser weapon in all of sci-fi. And I will fight anybody on that. The las gun is the most efficient weapon in all sci-fi.
It's also
Aside from maybe
extremely rugged. It's also very, very rugged. It can fire under almost any circumstances, and you can reload it just by
with a
cooking
campfire.
with a campfire, which is, I was like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Like, Ross, in the official lore for the las cannon, I know this isn't the las gun, but it's very similar. The twin-linked las cannon that is on Razorbacks, Predators, and certain Lehman Russes, the way it fires with so much heat that it hits and reloads the second gun. Now, it is not infinite ammo, but it's essentially infinite ammo because that gun outlasts its barrels. The ammunition for that gun outlasts its barrels. So it just keeps firing. I don't know why they don't mass produce like multi-lasers and just hand them to Space Marines. It's a much more efficient weapon than a bolter. You can transport more ammunition. What I'm saying is the Guard are really cool because they're just dudes.
I would love to see more multi-lasers as a thing. I'd actually love to see a multi-laser as an option for your heavy weapons teams. I'd love to see it. I know it's already on Sentinels and Valkyries, but I'd really love to see it as an option on some of the other vehicles that are associated with the Guard. But I'd particularly like to see like some motorcycles with a multi-laser sidecar, which would be awesome. I'd be all about that. But today,
I see this comment, and I'm gonna point this out. Las gun comes from Dune. Yes and no. Games Workshop does have a laser gun that is very similar to Dune, but the Dune las gun cuts through everything and blows everything away. It's more similar to a las cannon than the las gun is. A las gun is a rifle. Well, it's actually not a rifle because there's no rifling in it. So that terminology goes out the window.
Well, you are getting like super specific about this. Are you about to count some rivets on the Lehman Russ tape treads?
No. But as a sci-fi writer, and Ross, you know this very well, we have to name our weapons accordingly because a laser rifle makes no sense. There's no rifling in it. So when I had to name the weapons for Paradox Wars, I did just choose like sniper rifle, this, and then I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. A weapon that has no rifling whatsoever that accelerates a weapon, like the rail cannon, is neither a cannon or anything else. It is a projector. And I had to name it appropriately. I'm going way too deep into this.
You're murdering cat girls by the score by bringing in all this real world stuff for our sci-fantasy game.
But that's one of my favorite things about the Guard is that they are the most realistic faction in 40k. They are just guys, girls, non-binaries, just on the battlefield.
Ratlings, Ogrins, Beastmen.
Cat girls, cat boys.
Just occasionally Afriel strain and other things.
Yeah, sometimes weird mutant monsters.
Land warriors.
Beneath the hulls of your ships that you didn't know were there.
That's right. We have a super chat already. Boom. Look at that right off the bat. Argas the Pillager says, I'm all here for nerdy, insistent weapons teams.
See?
Oh,
they get me.
Thank you, Argas. This is the part where I point out that super chats are the absolute best way to support the channel and support our us creating more content. So we're always very grateful for anybody who decides to give us a super chat. It is the best way to keep more Lorebeards 40k coming to your screen.
Oh, also, there's a comment here that I do want to read. Real language evolves in really annoying ways, so I wouldn't be shocked if in the future is a laser rifle, even though it makes no sense. So in 40k, they actually do explain this in a novel that they don't know what rifling actually means.
Well, I can tell you in usage, in English usage, rifle has very rarely refers to the actual rifling of the barrel and instead refers to a non-handgun long weapon.
Yep.
So in Star Trek, which I'm a big Trekkie, they have phasers, right? And they have phaser rifles, which are, guess what? Not actually a rifle, but are a two-handed long version of the phaser. So, it is what it is.
But do you know what they should properly call that?
I don't care. It's Star
Handgun.
Trek, man.
Just
I don't
call it
care.
a handgun.
They beam themselves around. I mean, it's I don't know.
I mean,
I just
technically,
get it out.
every time they beam themselves somewhere, one copy of them is just incinerated forever, and another one just
This is why I don't want real science in my fantasy. Leave it out. Just let me enjoy it.
Why I insist in Paradox Wars to have real sci-fi.
Oh my god.
As well as dumb stuff.
Okay, all right. But focusing on today's topic, we could go in alphabetical order, which is how the images are arranged. Would that be okay, or would you rather start near the end, or what would you like to do?
I mean, starting with the best is the best, but we do have a super chat, and that's where we should actually start.
Yowie Forever says, "Where is Talarn? How am I supposed to funnel my Fremen love?" Are the Talarn not on there? Okay, I will add the Talarn. That should be easy enough to do. Alexis, can you talk about the Cadians while I find a picture of Talarns?
The Cadians are absolutely amazing, with eyes of bright purple because their world is so close to the. Never mind, it was so close to the Eye of Terra. The Cadians broke literally as their planets. The Cadians didn't break; their planet did from under them. The Cadians held until the very, very end as their entire world was blown apart by Abaddon the Despoiler in the most grandiose ending of an edition ever, in my opinion. Cadia stands. So, who are the Cadians? They are the Ultramarines of Guardsmen. There's no other way of putting it. That's what they are. They are some of the most disciplined, most elite guardsmen in the universe. They are typically, now this has changed, but for a very, very, very long time, they were the most equipped guardsmen in the galaxy because they had to constantly fight everything that was coming in and out of the Eye of Terra. Weirdly enough, they have had to fight things that went into the Eye of Terra, which is weird. And that's Tuska the Demon Killer, which they kind of just let him pass after a bit. They were just like, yeah, you just go in.
Okay, thank you, Dobby Forever, for pointing out that Talarn were not. They are now on the list. I have added them, and we will be talking about them. Very good catch, Dobby Forever. I assume they were part of it. I forgot that they were not. Thank you for reminding us. Now, Cadians, though, what's interesting about them, they are probably the most closest to a standard that the Imperial Guard has. Like, everything is compared to Cadian grade. The Cadians are the example held up of discipline and training and resolve. They are the standard to which everyone else is held. And typically, if you see an Imperial Guardsman and you don't know what regiment they're from, if they're in artwork, it's almost certainly Cadian.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are the default quote-unquote guardsmen, and they have been for over 20 years. I remember when they first came out in plastic back in 2003, so that would have been almost 24 years ago. Wow.
Oof.
I know. Almost everything we're going to talk about today has had models. Not all of them, but most of them have had models. But most of the models that do exist for these guys are really old metal ones. And the plastics, the Vostroyans came out at the same time as the Cadian plastics. So that gives you an idea of how long the Vostroyans have been around.
Vostroyans, they're so cool looking. I want them to have a kill team so badly.
Necroplayer says, shoutouts to my personal favorites, the Death Corps of Krieg and the Vostroyan Firstborn. Maybe hot take, the Firstborn are more interesting than the Valhallans for Russian quote-unquote inspired troops. I mean, I think they're both interesting in different ways, but I think your perspective is absolutely valid.
One of the Vostroyans named characters is Rasputin.
Yes.
Let's be clear. GW knows tongue-in-cheek jokes. Sometimes they're really obvious, though.
So the Cadians, now that their homeworld's been destroyed, and we're going to talk about that in our season finale on Saturday. The fall of Cadia is the topic for Saturday, our season finale. And ever since then, the Cadians have been kind of homeless. They kind of have something to prove to the galaxy that they're still around and still kicking ass. There's some really great novels about Cadians. The Mika-esque novels are just outstanding.
Oh my God, they're so good.
Yeah.
They are outrageously good novels.
So Cadians are kind of the standard Imperial Guard, right? Like everything else is based around them. They are very relevant in the lore.
Extremely
relevant in the lore. Their coolness, I mean, they have some excellent novels. There's no question about that. Their characters, I mean, I can't think of any characters I really love. There's Knight Commander Pask. There's the two Creeds. There's the Color Sergeant Kell. Mika-esque is obviously pretty awesome.
Does Krieg count as
Creed?
As them?
Creed
Yeah,
with
Creed. Sorry. Yeah, Creed. Do they count as part of the Cadians, or are they part of the?
No, they're both Cadians. They're both Cadians. Okay. They're both Cadian characters, born and raised. Ursula Creed and Ursula Creed.
I think Ursula is probably the least interesting character to have come out ever. We didn't get a novel.
No.
We got like, I think we now have a novel for her. I got to double check that. But like, her character is just, it's that girl from, what is that old movie? Matilda.
Yeah. She looks like the headmistress. Yeah. So I'm gonna say for me, Cadians are definitely S tier in relevance. They're probably A tier in lore, but I'm gonna say B tier in coolness. And I think I would put them ultimately top of B or bottom of A.
Okay. So I think that, unfortunately, I think where they lose me is that their tanks are boring looking. And I'm going to base a lot of things on how cool their tanks are. And Cadians are like, eh. So while the Mika-esque novels are absolutely astonishingly good, in fact, it has one of my favorite scenes in any book ever, which is one of the commanders having a panic attack because he's shell-shocked. He's having a PTSD episode. And Mika-esque is holding him down, saying, "We can't let anybody see this because you'll be executed."
Yeah, the commissars.
Is the most 40k thing ever, because this person is clearly suffering and needs help. And in 40k, that means execution. And that's crazy. I love that they dive into that. I think it's amazing. But unfortunately, their models kind of lose me. And for the longest time, their models were incredibly boring. So I'm going to say A tier.
Okay. Well, I think for now, let's say I'm going to put him at the top of B.
Top of B. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going to say top of B instead of bottom of A, because they are the baseline, because they are the standard, and this will help us kind of organize everyone else.
Yeah.
Now,
I fully agree with that. But if chat doesn't agree with that, they can simply donate $10 and move it anywhere that they want. They can move one thing anywhere on this list, including taking my precious Cadians and putting them down to C. Because I do love me some Cadians. I just think that their older models kind of sucked.
Oh, I'm wearing an Imperial Guard shirt today.
Drive me closer.
Yeah, drive closer. I want to hit them with my sword. It's got the picture of the commissar in the tank. Woo! Okay, so that is basically the Cadians, right? We've talked about them. And I mean, there's more to go into about the homeworld, but we're going to talk about that on Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Catachans. There's a lot of
Cadians.
Well, Canadian or Cadians were often called Canadians. Catachans. These guys are basically Space Vietnam. They really are. And they use a lot of action movie. They're heavily based on some action movie tropes. They're heavily based on the Predator, characters. They're heavily based on Rambo. They're
Rambo.
heavily based on Vasquez from Aliens. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's their wheelhouse, you know.
Yep.
And in my opinion, their homeworld is actually cooler than they are. Like I love the planet of Catachan.
I fully agree with that. I love that Catachan went into the warp for a full year, came out unscathed, uncorrupted, and so did the Catachans.
They do have some amazing characters. Colonel Straken is super
Mm-hmm.
cool, and Sly Marbo
Yep.
is outstanding. So now
Sly
but
Marbo has 4 gold stars from the Emperor. Space Marine chapter masters don't even get those. And his response to getting another one in his novel was, "Put it with the rest. I'm leaving."
I'm making sure he's
Sly
on our list to talk about.
Sly Marbo killed an entire Tau tank division because somebody told him personally that he is not relevant to the war because he is one man.
Yeah, see, he's the Chuck Norris of 40k. Sly Marbo.
When a lictor caught him off guard and bit him, after several agonizingly painful days, the lictor died.
Right.
This was actually put into both a White Dwarf and Warhammer community, so it's
Yeah.
tongue in cheek, but it's still
literally the
lore.
Chuck Norris of 40k. Yeah.
Yep.
So the Catachans, they hail from a death world called Catachan. It's a jungle planet so lethal that almost every plant, animal, and microbe is trying to kill you. It's basically Space Australia. And growing up there forges some of the toughest, most survival-hardened humans in the Imperium. They are famously muscular, scarred, brutally practical, and their culture prizes toughness, self-reliance, and hard-earned respect over rank for its own value. Catachans, famously or infamously, are the ones who are most likely to frag commissars.
Mm-hmm.
just so you're aware of that. They're also their regiments have a reputation for being almost as dangerous to their allies as their enemies, mostly due to bad tempers and heavy drinking and complete intolerance for what they see as weakness or pomp and circumstance.
Now, funny enough, the Catachan's special rule throughout almost all editions of Warhammer was that they are strength 4 for guardsmen. That's the same strength as Space Marines and Orcs.
Yeah, Catachans are very strong. Famously, in the Last Chancers, there's a character called Rocket Girl who carries a rocket launcher, who is in fact a Catachan, who looks a lot like Vasquez from Aliens. And she is strong enough to carry her rocket launcher and fire it without any help, which is unusual for typically you have heavy weapons teams in the Imperial Guard. I believe there's another character who can just carry around a heavy bolter, who's a Catachan.
Not only does he carry around a heavy bolter, he once again picked it up from a Space Marine.
So yeah, these guys are pretty strong. They are usually deployed into dense terrain, jungles or ruins or hive underlevels, any environment where visibility is low and traps are common. They're good at setting traps, the Catachans are, and they are experts at setting up kill zones and minefields.
They also have special sentinels. Their sentinels are some of the most athletic sentinels that exist. And I thought that this lore was really cool because when I was breaking down the Imperial vehicles a while back, several Imperial Guard regiments have special sentinels, but the Catachan one is extremely fast and agile in a forest. Typically, it is, well, almost 100% of the time, it is armed with a heavy flamethrower and a chainsaw. And everyone doubted the chainsaw until the Catachan started using it in combat. Now it's pretty much standard equipment onto other sentinels.
So Catachans are pretty relevant. I wouldn't say they're as relevant as Cadians, but they've been around a very long time. They're in a lot of books. They're mentioned in a lot of big encounters. So I'd say the relevance is high. The coolness factor is there. I wouldn't say they're the coolest, but it's
I
there.
would I would say that their coolness dips so hard because they have the ugliest models still current in 40k in the past 23, 24 years. The Catachan box is so goddamn ugly that it doesn't sell because it's ugly.
I will not argue. I think the model quality does drag them down so they have a high relevance. They have a decent cool factor, and their lore is, again, they have really good characters, and they have some really, the world of Catachan itself is actually fascinating. But you're right. I think the ugliness and the age of their miniatures really pulls them down. I would say B tier.
I am going to disagree with you because obviously you're wrong. I'm joking.
I'll accept top of C though.
I would put them in top of C.
Okay.
Now, I'm joking, Ross. You know that. Yeah, that's a joke for everyone in chat because I know somebody's going to be like, Alexis is mean to Ross. Clip it. I hate them.
We get along really well, I think, overall as co-hosts. I think we get along very well. And just so you know, like Alexis and I, we both do a lot of work outside of the actual hosting duties. And for example, today, Alexis is the one that made the announcement and set up the studio and everything. So she does a lot of work behind the scenes you guys aren't aware of, just like I do as well behind the scenes. So Alexis is a great co-host. I have no complaints whatsoever. And Super Chat, Necro Player, a hopefully interesting add to these conversations. Many regiment rules have been bad. Any suggestions to improve the worst ones when we get to them? What are the worst ones, Necro Player?
Ooh. I mean, most of them don't have rules anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of...
Catachan's one being strength 4 it's kind of hit and miss nowadays because it doesn't make too big of a difference. But the Cadian one of sticky objectives is one of the best in the entire game.
Yeah, I don't know. Necro Player, if you can tell us like which ones you think are the worst and how to improve on them, that would be cool. Krieg's unique one is awful, he says.
I will read that one real quick while we talk about the next one.
Yeah, the next ones are the Elysian drop troops.
The coolest guardsmen.
Ooh, that's a bold statement. That's a bold statement.
That is a correct statement. Did you know it, Ross?
I like Elysians, but I actually have one on this list that I like more than Elysians.
Right,
now, Elysians have some of the best looking gear, though. They had their own model. They had their own versions of almost every gear. Melta gun, las gun, plasma gun. They had a specific pattern that was just for them from Forge World. So they had really cool looking versions of all of these weapons, and they had the first grav shoots you ever saw on a model. These guys were super cool. The Elysians.
Can I talk about my favorite things about the Elysians?
Yes.
Oh my god, the Torox. Let's go. One of the coolest cars in all of 40k. The Torox was dropped from Valkyries while the Valkyrie was still moving. So the Valkyrie would come down, the Torox would just be dropped and would just have to drive and hope that it survived. And they also had the Torox Venator, which had a heavy weapon on the back of it and a heavy weapon, essentially a fast-moving heavy weapon team. They also had drop sentinels with grav shoots on them that they would drop from the sky just and land. They were also the first regiment to get two special sentinels. One is the drop sentinel. The other is a sentinel with a multi-melta. These were both interchangeable, but they did have a standard sentinel that was equipped with a multi-melta. Then they had the drop sentinel. Drop sentinel is slightly different, so I do count it as different sentinel. It had a much sturdier legs so that it could survive the impact. But these things were so cool, and the Elysians' specialty is rapid hitting and just killing, getting out as quickly as possible. hit target, kill target, target dead. Good, run away.
So the Elysians are from a world called Elysia, and they specialize in rapid deployment warfare, particularly via aircraft and grav shoots. These are the airborne 101. These are the any kind of airdrop troops from our world history. That's who these guys generally are. Paratroopers, airborne commandos. That's who these guys are. Their society supports a really strong aerospace and orbital industry. So Elysia, basically almost everybody works or supports or relates to the things that they do in orbit. That makes them very well suited to things like high altitude insertion, ship to planet operations, precision raids. These are the things that the Elysians excel at. They're typically leaner and more lightly equipped than any other guard regiment because they sacrifice heavy armor in return for mobility.
A lot of their weapons are represented by being able to have folding stocks, folding either up or around the weapon itself. A lot of their weapons are extremely light so that they can keep them on them while they're using their grav shoots. And one of the other things, the Elysians work very closely with the Imperial navies. They have tons of Navy assets. Well, they can get the Navy to assist them in a ton of different things. It's very weird because the lore for them says that they have it, but it's in 40k. It's a different faction that uses anyway.
BioFoot says the Elysians sound bougie AF, prima donnas.
Kind of, yeah.
BioFoot, I love it when you come up with this stuff. The Elysians are, yeah, I would argue they are maybe a little more elite than your typical guardsmen. They have a higher standard of training because of the paratroop nature, and the fact that they often will liaise with the Imperial Navy. Fun fact, Alexis, there is an Imperial Guard regiment that tithes directly, but their tithe is directly to Navy units because they're all pilots. It's a world called Fantine, and you can read about them in the novels Double Eagle and Interceptor City.
Oh yeah, they make that drink.
Yeah.
Fanta.
You want a Fanta? Do you? No, that's not that. But the Fantines are really cool. They're not on the list because they're not a standard regiment by any means. But and we have yet another super chat. Hey, Ricky Chapman, we're going to bring up our tabletop role-playing campaign as the Inquisitor of our group collects guardsman squads he finds to join his retinue. Oh, that's hilarious. I can see an Inquisitor be like, that's the room where the Attilians live, and that's the room where the Catachans live, and that's the room where the Cadians live. I can see that. That's funny.
That's good. That's good.
The Elysians, they typically used for lightning fast strikes behind enemy lines. They like to arrive ahead of like the most guard advance pushes. Like they're the advanced force you send in to seize key objectives, and they do deploy from Valkyries and other aircraft. They drop en masse in large groups or small commando teams, depending on their needs. But they often will drop as a full unit, or even as a full regiment. They will drop onto the battlefield. I believe their old rules allowed them to deep strike.
Yeah, they all have deep strike.
Their gear,
I don't know if they have the Legends rules.
Their gear is grav shoots, the compact weapons we talked about, demolition charges. They use those quite a bit. And their lifestyle breeds a certain daredevil culture, which I kind of appreciate. They're often portrayed as professional but audacious, willing to jump into hot landing zones that would terrify conventional guardsmen. Anytime that the Elysians are called in, the casualties can be very severe because a failed drop or an overextended raid can strand them in hostile territory, and that's obviously not good. So as a result, they are both brave and somewhat fatalistic in their character. Not like the Kriegsmen, which we will talk about next. They're not as fatalistic as the Krieg, but they are a little bit into the grave humor, you know what I'm saying, the dark humor. We got a super chat from Necroplayer who says, oh, here's a decent edit to my last chat. What rules would you give to those who don't have rules, no longer have rules, or need improvement?
Elysians would have Uppy Downy. If
What is?
you okay, let me explain what Uppy Downy is, because I forget that a lot of people don't play actual tournaments. Uppy Downy refers to at the end of a phase, they can return to reserves and then deep strike somewhere else.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
If not that, they should have the ability to take 6 Valkyries. Like, if they should have a detachment that allows you to have 6 Valkyries. It doesn't have to make sense, and it would be a terrible army, but it would fit the Elysians very well.
If I played Catechins, I would want the ability to put a minefield down somewhere.
I think the best way of doing that would be the way the Saboteur does it, the Gene Steel Occult Saboteur, where she puts a marker on the battlefield, and then anything within 3 inches of that marker, if it ends a movement, it takes mortal wounds. And I think that's how you would have to set up a minefield. Like, you place 3 markers, and that's the minefield.
Face Octopus is like, how about Afriel strain rules? Oh boy. Well, we have a whole episode on the Abhumans, which we do just actually. Did we talk? Yeah, we talked about them in the Abhumans one, didn't we? The Afriel strain was that?
Yeah, we did.
Was that a tier list? I think it was a tier list for Abhumans. Well, they do exist. They are a thing. They are extremely unlucky, but they're also extremely good at what they do. So. What's a way to represent really terrible luck, Alexis? Fewer command points, or a chance that you spend a command point, or maybe if you spend a command point, you have to roll a d6, and on a 1 you spend 2, something like that.
I would say if this unit is targeted with a stratagem, roll a d6, and on a 1 they take d3 mortal wounds.
Right. And then to compensate them for that, I would probably
and
increase.
Then it'd be 2 through 5 is it just, counts normally. And then on a 6, you get it for free to count it as their luck.
Well, they don't have luck. They only have bad luck.
Yeah, that's why it deals a shit ton of damage.
So I think to compensate for that, though, I probably would give them a slightly higher ballistic skill, weapon skill, or leadership to represent their elite nature. So that's a thought, but no big deal. No big deal. Okay, so Elysians, where do we want to put them on the chart? Relevance, coolness, and lore.
So relevance, unfortunately, the Elysians are not that relevant. They were way back in the day. They're still playable in Horus Heresy as a militia army, which is pretty interesting. But that's where a lot of the old Imperial Guard go once they're no longer relevant in 40k.
The Imperial Guard Regiments retirement home is the Imperial Militia 30k.
So they're not really relevant.
Agreed. That's low.
Their models are beautiful, but they are resin.
High. Coolness is high.
Yes. A Sentinel with a multi-melta is super cool. They don't have much lore, though. They have a few novels, though. They have like 2 novels.
Yeah, but they're not like, you don't go out and read the Elysian novels for fun. It's just they're part of the group. I'm going to put them in C.
Top of C.
Better than Catechins? More relevant?
I would say that it's because that Catechins models are so awful.
Okay. I'll grant you that. They're better. I would rather have an Elysian army than a Catechin army, especially on the to look at.
Yeah,
That's true. All right, so now we're going on to the Kriegsmen. One thing I love about the Kriegsmen, the memes. The memes for these guys, the meme game is strong with the Krieg.
Yeah, it is. It is very much hit people with shovels.
Well, there's one about a guy who's just like learning how to be a farmer. It's actually pretty great.
Yep.
So the Death Corps of Krieg. They come from a world called Krieg, which in German means war. They come from a planet named War. Their world suffered a devastating civil war and subsequent atomic bombardments because part of their population turned against the Imperium. And the loyalists there fought a extremely long, like over 100 years, trench war to reclaim the planet in the Emperor's name. And the result is a society that is completely steeped in guilt and obsessed with redemption through absolute obedience and sacrifice. These are the all gas masks all the time regiment, a thing which they stole from the Steel Legion, I might add.
Yeah.
Absolutely ran away with it.
The Steel Legion did come first.
The Kriegsmen, they are specialists, obviously, in siege and trench warfare. They are famously modeled on World War I imagery.
Typically, especially the French.
Yeah, the French. I was about to say, they definitely look very much like the French of World War I. Long coats, gas masks, barbed wire, and lots of artillery. If you want to pick like the artillery guard unit, it might be the Krieg.
Now, I do have to bring up some stuff about them. The Krieg are, for the most part, they refer to each other as numbers, and none of them really have names too much. And the names that they do have are typically given to them by other people because they don't want to refer to them as numbers. Like Lord Dryer only got his name because somebody didn't remember his number, and then the name stuck. I honestly think that he kind of betrays their lore, and I don't think that they should have had a named character. It doesn't make too much sense for the Krieg to have a named character, but that's just me. Considering that, he's replaceable, and that's kind of the whole point of the Krieg. What's changing ranks again? It is only $10.
Drazina asks, what's the cost to change ranking? It is $10. $10 will change the ranking for anybody who wants to do it.
Krieg do have a pretty cool rule, and I think that I'm going off of their basic rule. I'm not going off of their elite squad and everything. So their basic rule is grim demeanor, which is each time a model in this unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if the starting if that unit is below starting strength, which is a really, really good rule. And add 1 to the wound roll if it is below half strength. This is insanely decent. It's not as good as sticky objectives, which is arguably the best rule that you could ever get. Especially if you can get scout before the game begins and just step on an objective. Now it's yours for the rest of the game until somebody else gets on it. But the thing that drags the Krieg down for me is, unfortunately, the fan base of Kriegers online, specifically those that don't know much about Warhammer 40k and use the Kriegers for a to push their political narrative. Let's try to keep it as
There's guys, any Warhammer player who is like uncomfortably into the Death Corps of Krieg or uncomfortably into the Black Templars, that's a red flag for me. That's like okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to watch this guy a little closely.
Yep. It is not, I do agree, it is not the Kriegers' fault. And I don't get why they're so obsessed with the Death Corps of Krieg when the Armageddon Steel Legion is literally the German war machine. They missed.
Well, Krieg has the German name to it, is the thing.
Yes, but the French name their stuff after battles that they've won.
Listen, I'm just telling you.
I know.
If I had to guess why certain people are attracted to the Krieg, it's because their name is German.
It's like the people that don't realize the Starship Troopers movie is propaganda.
That is also a big red flag for me. If someone just unironically loves Starship Troopers, and I'm like, you realize that's satire, right? Oh my gosh. Anyway, we got a Survivor. Yikes. Oops, yikes.
Yeah, it's oops, all yikes.
That's very good.
But I will say that now that they have miniatures, a lot of the conversation online has shifted away from the whole stupid into talking about the miniatures and how to make the miniatures cool and their actual lore and everything. And I think that's really good. I think the Death Corps Krieg fan base online is healing a bit. So that's good. Granted, I don't use Twitter at all, so I have no idea. I will dead name Twitter. That is perfectly acceptable.
The Kriegsmen, their doctrine is mostly about grinding attrition, human wave assaults, very little regard for individual survival. They excel at building and breaking fortifications. They're a bit like the Astra Militarum's Iron Warriors, if you want to think about it that way. They definitely love their artillery duels. They love artillery in general, and slowly pushing ahead regardless of the cost. That is very much the Krieg way. They're
love. Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, finish.
I do love that commissars in the Cadian regiment have to instill strategy upon the Cadians to keep them from. Well, the Cadians don't really need commissars. They're fine. The Elysians need commissars because they will run away. They're not the bravest dudes. The Catachans will make the commissars disappear. The Death Corps Krieg need commissars to stop them from running over the trenches.
Yeah, the guilt is strong with them.
Wait, no, don't charge just yet.
Necroplayer as a super chat says, a psych thing for my interpretation of them is that they're not suicidal. They just think that every other loyalist are more important than them.
No, they're kind of like the Sisters of Battle of Guardsmen.
No, I think Necroplayer's got a point that it's not so much a martyr complex. Like they're not out there to die for a cause. They're out there because they feel like, due to their guilt, that they are not worthy of survival. Maybe I think that's where Necroplayer's coming from. And if that's where he's coming from, I can kind of see it.
Yeah, all right. I'm good with that.
Necroplayer, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what you're saying.
All right.
The Death Corps, they do view themselves as expendable tools of the Emperor. They are very penitent. Like you said, individual identity is suppressed. They all just have numbers instead of names. They're raised in creches rather than families, which is interesting. And they are conditioned to see that dying in the service of the Emperor is the only meaningful absolution for the sins of their world. These guys are both grim and dark.
Now, I won't say that they are suicidal. That is the meme. But they do tend to be overzealous when it comes to charging the enemy.
Well, they are seen as both difficult allies and terrifying opponents for the enemies of the Imperium. Okay, because they will accept orders that guarantee horrific losses, and they literally don't understand other regiments being reluctant to do the same.
Yeah,
they're just like, I don't see why you have a problem with these horrific losses. So
there's a quote from a Mechanicus. It's in the Mechanicus Codex where they love working with the Death Corps Krieg because the Death Corps Krieg think like a machine.
They do. That's true. Yeah. Famously, they carry entrenching tools and shovels and use them quite a bit. Their models, a lot of their models, especially the heavy weapons teams, have shovels and stuff on full display.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, and their aesthetic is very grimdark. Like the whole thing, they are literally like the example of, hey, how grimdark is 40k? Here's the Death Corps of Krieg. Read about them, and people go, oh god.
I think one of my favorite stories about them, though, is they start shelling a hive city into submission. The hive city surrenders. The Death Corps continue shelling them for a few months, and then just go, oh, you surrendered? Yeah, that's cool. You didn't surrender enough. Like, you didn't surrender to our terms. I just thought that was really cool.
Yes, Drazina, the penitent man kneels before God. Yes, good Indiana Jones reference. Love it. The penitent man. The penitent man.
Also, I think the Death Corps Krieg really inspired Trench Crusade.
Certainly there's some overlap there. So on a relevance factor, they're pretty relevant.
They've gotten more relevant as time has gone on. They were almost completely forgotten about back in like 7th. Because that's when the Forge World team like stopped. It didn't stop producing them. It just stopped making them and just started selling them on a made-to-order basis. And then GW picked it up with the newest models recently, with the Death Riders, the Command Squad, and the regular troop choice, which is really, really good. They are excellent models.
So I'd say the relevance is high.
Yes, I would agree.
Not as high as, maybe not as high as the Cadians or the Catachans, but pretty high. Coolness factor, very cool. They look amazing.
I think they're okay. Oh, and the engineer squad. Sorry, I forgot about the engineers.
lore-wise, they do have a really excellent Imperial Armor book all about the war on their world.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And again, I do love the memes.
Oh, they have a really cool heavy weapon team. They have the actual like tires, the thing, and it's all set up on that. It is the
I do love
coolest
that.
heavy weapon.
I'm going to suggest B, but below Cadians.
I agree.
Okay.
I fully agree with that.
So better than Elysians and Catachans, not quite as good as Cadians.
I mean, even their old sculpts when they were competing with the Elysians, I think it's hands down. It was I think the Kriegers outsold the Elysians like 10-1.
Mm. Our next entry is not so much a regiment as it is a squad.
And it is one of the best squads in all of 40K's 10th edition.
Yeah, this is the homage to the Dirty Dozen, is probably the best way to think of it.
Yep.
The last chancer. So who are the? Oh wait.
Whoa! Holy cow!
We got 2 big super chats that just came in. First, it's Ricky Chapman with a steel chair, $20. He says the most loyal group to our Inquisitor, led by a whole bunch of numbers. I'm not going to read them all. We call him Red. He's been by the Inquisitor side the longest, armed with a hotshot pistol and a power sword. He's mute due to a throat slash throat from an assassin. That's awesome. That's super cool.
I do want to make a joke about the name being all numbers. What you should do is find Red as the number in like
the CMYK number, the color number,
and make it that as a joke where his name is actually Red.
That's funny. That's a great one, Ricky Chapman. I like that. That's super cool. And we got one from Benjamin, $10. He says, I play Space Marine with a buddy who knows nothing about 40K lore, so he calls them Canadian reinforcements. So Canadians to S tier.
You know what? That's fair. Also,
all right.
Baneblade Bob in Space Marine 2, absolutely amazing. His speech is actually inspiring. It's not the speech. I think the best speech in like any fictional setting has to go to the one from Attack on Titan. But still, that one, Baneblade Bob's one, was really good.
Necro Players got another super chat. Says, I know it might not need to be said, but for posterity, I want to mention Kriegsman is my favorite regiment, but I'm not one of those guys, I promise. No, Necro Player, you're allowed to think that your favorite is the Kriegsman. There's nothing wrong with that. There's people, I think you know what I mean when there's someone that's just a little too into it, like shows up in cosplay as their guy at the tournament, as a Kriegsman at the tournament. That's where I would raise an eyebrow and start to wonder what kind of bumper stickers this guy has this car,
I have run into and played against people that fully dressed up as commissars.
And yeah, commissars though, that's not the same as a Kriegsman.
Yeah, the Kriegsman is always weird. It depends on what helmet they wear. That's where it is, because the Krieg helmet is both German, American, and later on French helmet style, but it's the German style.
All I can say is it when you see it, when someone is just too into Black Templars or Krieg.
Yes,
and you'll know it when you see it as well. I don't want to go down too far down that road. Necro Player, you're fine. As far as I'm concerned, you're fine. It's fine to say the Krieg are your favorite. It's fine to say the Black Templars are your favorite Space Marines. That's fine. But if you're just too into it, that's a red flag, and that's different. So I want to be clear about the distinction. But yeah, it's fine. I never worried about you, Necro Player.
I do like the Black Templar. They're basically just male sisters of battle. Misters of Battle are actually the
Diamond Rush says he said Canadians, Ross, not Canadians, who admittedly deserve a place on this list based on their World War I performance.
Yes, they do. They took the trench gun and made it scarier, Ross.
Real world Canadians, unfortunately, do not exist in 40K. So, but I take your point. I know he said Canadians, but he meant Canadians. We all know what he meant.
Yeah, but Canadians.
Let's talk about the last chancers. Like I said, basically just a squad rather than a full regiment, but they have had enough personnel turnover to maybe count, if you count the dead, maybe that they're a full regiment. I don't know. They are the 13th Penal Legion. and they are notorious, composed of convicted deserters and traitors and other scum of the Imperium. Instead of execution, they're offered one last chance to serve the Imperium of Man, and that is they get to go on the most suicidal missions imaginable, and they get to, perhaps very rarely, if they survive, earn a pardon for their crimes. This setup gives them a very strong Suicide Squad feel within the Astra Militarum. They're led by the ruthless Colonel Schaefer, who is a real son of a bitch, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Schaefer is an absolute psychopath. The Last Chancers are kind of more like a commando unit. The individual prisoners that make up the Last Chancers usually have some very specific skills. They have some very specific skills, if you know what I mean, from Taken.
They did miss some super chats.
Okay. Yeah, we did miss this one. Ricky Chapman says, you might as well tell you about the squads the Cadians he picked up. They're talking about the Inquisitor. Off a Necron tomb world, led by a woman named Velt Sarkusin, nicknamed Velo, I think. Velt or Velot? Velo? I don't know. I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's cool. That's really cool. The Catachan we found in a Space Hulk led by Dreg Skinner. They've been really effective at tracking down cults that have hidden in the wilderness. That's awesome. That sounds like a Catachan who would be very, very good at hunting cults. Yeah, and Dreg Skinner is a great name for him too. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. That's awesome.
Okay. Now I think we caught all of them. If there are any more super chats that I missed, chat, if you see them, just point them out.
Yeah, we don't do it on purpose. We promise. Sorry. The Last Chancers, where was I? Yes. So they have certain specific skills: demolition, sniping, infiltration. Basically, they are chock full of action heroes rather than individual soldiers. These skills are,
find their rules real quick.
Their skills are usually honed through a mix of criminal experience and military veteran status, basically. And Schaefer's approach to using them is brutally pragmatic. He makes use of all of their talents while keeping tight control through explosive collars. And the explosive collars for the Penal Legion, that was around long before the Suicide Squad was a thing for DC Comics. I just want to point that out.
I think I'm thinking the Gaunt's Ghosts.
It's fair to say that attrition in the Last Chancers is extreme. Very, very few survive long enough to receive any reward. And as far as I know, there's been at least 2 different versions of the Last Chancers, squad members. There might be a third. I don't recall. But typically, the operations that you send Last Chancers on are things that no commander in his right mind would assign to regular troops. Stuff like infiltrating heavily fortified strongholds, or sabotaging critical enemy assets, or serving as disposable shock troops to open up a breach.
Mm-hmm.
The regiment's internal dynamics are very much full of tension as well, because the criminals have nothing to lose, and they're forced into cooperation under a commander that they fear, rather than, well, I guess they do grudgingly respect Schaefer. In the wider lore, this is obviously, this is where we get themes of redemption plus expendability. They definitely represent the Imperium's expendable ideas of expendable troops and callousness towards human life. Sebastian Muller, thank you for being a member. He says, who is this guy? Amanda Waller's cousin?
Yeah.
There's definitely some overlap. The Last Chancers are, where would you put them in terms of relevance? How relevant are the Last Chancers? They haven't been around and doing much, I think, in a while. But
so they have some good books. They have some really, really good books. But they don't have models currently. And that's kind of it.
Mornington Cresta says they always felt sharp, inspired to me. I think it's definitely more Dirty Dozen than Sharp, although I'm a bit I love the Sharp television series starring Sean Bean. It's excellent, by the way. If you're at all into military history and Sean Bean and cool action adventure set in the Napoleonic era, go check out Sharp's Rifles, the series. It's amazing. But I guess I can see that. I don't feel like it's as direct a reference, but I can see it. Yeah, good point.
Now, I think they don't have models. They're not
They
really
did.
relevant.
They did. They did have the metal models.
Yes, that were hideous.
For the most part. Rocket Girl was like one of the few that I was like, oh, hey, a female Catachan. Like, I really want to use this. But
yeah, but I've had that model. It is. Ooh.
It's not great. Yeah, it's not great.
As much as I want to like them, and I think that they could be cool, like I could definitely see them coming back as a kill team because it would make total sense for them to come back as a kill team.
Why do we not have a kill team of the Last Chancers already? Holy shit!
Yeah, but the Recon Squad got a kill team for some reason. I will never understand that. The Cadian Recon Squad, instead of giving us fucking Elysians like we want, but
like we deserve.
Yeah, it's so dumb. I hate to say it, but I think it's D tier.
Well,
good book, but nothing else.
Well, the relevance is low, and as you say, the coolness is low. I think for now they go into D. I don't like it. I'm not proud of it, but I do think that they maybe belong there.
If they get a kill team, get a kill team, they will skyrocket in this list. I think they would be, actually, they wouldn't go that high. I think they'd be right behind, right above Catachans because their models are ugly. Catachans are going to be at probably the bottom of the sea because their models are so ugly. And I think that actually destroys any relevancy that they really have, unfortunately. But the Last Chancers, somebody did suggest rules. Okay.
Right.
So what I would do is I would actually have a rule where if you get into combat, you can sacrifice D3 of them to deal D3 damage. Because that makes sense to me. They would be blowing themselves up. If not that,
yeah, they're not really martyrs.
No, it's them being exploderated. You know, they're gonna be like, "Hey, you want to see a magic trick?"
Well, I think if I had rules for them, I would make them a single squad, and each member of the squad would have a different weapon. You would not have they would not all be las guns.
So when they do things like that, it would be like 2, maybe 3 special weapons, and then the rest would be variant of like softer weapons, like a shotgun, a las gun, a carbine, close combat weapon, chainsword,
yeah, stuff like that.
One with a plasma pistol, and then you would have like the plasma gunner, the melta, the flamer, the heavy stubber, or something like that. I could definitely see all of that, and I think their special rule would be like scout to represent that they're going in first, or infiltration. One of those two. I think scout would be the best, and then I would have them deal like every round of combat, roll a d6, and on a 2+, you deal d3 mortal wounds to your opponent, and on a 1 your guy just dies. You still remove a model because they're in combat and they're exploding. I think something that shows how dark they actually are is good for the tabletop game.
Schaefer had a pretty fun model. I wouldn't say it was awesome, but I liked it. It was, remember, he was chomping on a cigar and he had a power sword up in the air, kind of like this. He looked pretty cool. All right, but that is the Last Chancers. Let's see about the Brontian Long Knives. Hey, we got our first RPG inspired unit now.
Now, I will say, I know nothing about these guys, so Ross, please tell me about these guys, as I am interested, because they are half naked and covered in oil.
Well, the Brontians are basically, they're from a home world called Bront, which, I mean, that's a pretty obvious, right?
They ride brontosauruses.
Their signature weapon is a large, heavy combat knife. Every soldier has one, and the blade that they carry is both a tool and a badge of honor. Okay. Much of their reputation revolves around their ferocity in close combat. These are your melee guardsmen, which sounds awful. I know.
So they're Catachans.
Well, they are raised from a world where violence and personal toughness are valued, and so they produce very aggressive infantry. They typically are assault infantry, in fact. So they're storm guardians, if you will, of the Imperial Guard. They're deployed to storm trenches and breach urban defenses and clear fortifications. Anytime it's going to devolve into room to room or hand to hand, you want the Bronte long knives up front. They still use their standard guard ranged weapons, but their doctrine and morale are mostly geared towards getting in close. Grenades, bayonet charges, sudden night assaults, intimidation through sheer audacity. The Bronte long knives are the ballsiest guardsmen. These dudes just do not have any regard for self-preservation, but not in the way of a Kriegsman, more like, hey, hold my beer, watch this. It's kind of like the Bronte long knife approach to life.
So somehow less disciplined got a chance.
Oh no, they're quite proud and hot-headed. They are quick to settle disputes with their knives rather than their words. I think in a way they're basically that Crocodile Dundee scene. That's not a knife. This is a knife. They are often considered reckless, and other commanders who know how to use them will hold them back until a critical moment, then unleash them to break through the enemy lines or exploit a breach in the wall. These guys are not subtle, but they're scary up close, and they're very good at finishing a fight once they're in reach. But they are certainly a of all the regiments, they are certainly one of them, because I can't see myself. They're cool, I guess I would say. They're definitely interesting and cool, but I don't know if I would put them in my army. Let's put it that way. I mean, if you did put them in your army, you would probably use them a lot like the Kroot are used for the Tau. A screening force that gets in and fights in hand-to-hand combat. And I believe that's kind of what was on our mind when we were designing them, was like, what if the Imperial Guard had a Kroot equivalent? So that's who the Bronte long knives are. They are from Only War, which is set right next to Dark Heresy, and I think Bront is in the Calixus sector. So that's who they are. I think relevance is extremely low. Extremely low. It's going to be true for any of the RPG regiments, which we have 3 of on this list. They don't have any models, obviously, but their coolness is pretty high, I would say. The lore is not great. I'm gonna put them in, I think, D tier.
I would agree with that.
Bronte long knives.
Yeah.
Are they better or worse?
Had a chance.
I
think the Last Chances are better.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But they are. I'm gonna be really clear. I'm gonna be 100% real with you right now. I like these guys. I enjoy them. I think they're a lot of fun. I wish that if they had models, if they had really good looking models, I think we would push them above the Catachans.
Yes, if they had models.
But they don't. And so having 0 models and having 0 novels, I think they unfortunately landed D tier. We've got a super chat. Elemental Exposure. Oh, look, another Lorebeards tier list. It would be real shame if someone were to Nurgle to S tier. Oh, God, why? Elemental Exposure. You're killing me, buddy. All right. Can you talk for a bit while I find a Nurgle image?
What's the next one? Please be one I know.
The Lucifer Blacks.
Cool. Right. One I don't know. Damn it.
Oh, these guys are wild. We're gonna have to talk about them. But if there's another regiment you want to talk about while I'm looking up this image, we can jump ahead a little bit.
All right.
I gotta find me a good image, Nurgle.
Oh, there's the Tanith on this list. Oh,
yeah, the Tanith first and only.
We will wait for them because they have insane. They might actually be S tier.
Well, it's going to be hard to keep them out, I think. Let's put it that way.
They're going to be infiltrating right in there. God damn it, Nurgle. What the hell? Why is Nurgle always in our tier lists?
So Nurgle is now in S tier. Welcome, Nurgle, to the list. There is not a Trader Guard unit that is strongly associated with Nurgle. There probably are. I'm gonna rephrase. There probably are. I'm just not familiar with who they might be. But there is the Blood Pact, which we will have to talk about eventually when we get to our Trader Guard.
Oh my
episode.
god, yeah.
All right,
Blood
so
Pact
Lucifer
is really
Blacks.
cool.
What if I told you that there was a unit or a regiment, I should say, of Imperial Guard whose whole thing is, how do I put this? These guys are possibly one of the most elite Imperial Guard regiments that exist.
Oh yeah,
but
the
they're also
people are pointing out the Morbian 6th from Darktide are a Nurgle
there you go.
aligned Chaos Space Marine faction. In our defense, I don't really play Darktide too much. I kind of just completely forgot about them.
I have played it and I really liked it.
I want to get the Hive Ganger, but they put it behind a paywall, and I'm just like, I don't want to pay for the game.
So it's, according to some sources, the Lucifer Blacks are from a warrior household dating all the way back to the early Imperium, or possibly even the Unification Wars themselves. Their name has been attached to elite Imperial formations serving as honor guards, bodyguards, or enforcers for the high authorities of Terra.
Damn.
They are known for their distinctive black armor and a culture steeped in dueling, personal honor, and martial rituals. They're basically the Sardaukar, is another way to think of them.
Yeah.
They're aristocratic killers. They're nobles who have turned their entire lineage towards war. They serve the Imperium with a mix of pride and cold efficiency. And their training emphasizes personal combat ability, discipline, and a certain theatricality. Like they like to do things in a flashy way. So ceremonial duels and strict codes of conduct, stylized uniforms and armor markings. These guys, they are not massed line troops. They are hand-picked groups that are attached to key officials or war zones or prestigious commando raids. These are they are just below, I would say, Tempestus Scions.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, they're more like elite bodyguards than actual infantry, and you might see them around a command bunker. You might see them in a shock assault if a particularly famous commander is leading from the front. They might be the mailed fist of a sector governor, but more often,
Caiaphas Cain on the field.
More often, these guys are kind of used a little bit like the Minotaurs. Like they mostly are sent out by very high-placed people in the Imperium to do things. So thematically, they're somewhere between an ancient knightly order and a grimdark secret police enforcer unit. They represent the Imperium's aristocratic warrior castes. Yeah, they fought at the Battle Lion's Gate on Terra alongside the Custodes. These guys, they're serious. The Lucifer Blacks are serious. They're just extremely rare. You very rarely see them outside of novels. In fact, I don't think you've ever seen them outside of novels.
I'm trying to think if there's ever been a model of any.
I don't think
so. And there's none that I can think of.
I do not think so.
I think a White Dwarf did a paint job of one of them on an existing miniature, but I don't think that doesn't count.
I'll have to look that up. Where would you put these guys?
So they are really cool. They are incredibly cool. No model, and I would say barely relevant, but they were relevant in the Battle of Lion's Gate, which is more recent lore. So I'm going to say C tier. But I'm going to say between Elysians and Catachans.
Yeah, I don't see any like official paint schemes anywhere. I don't know about that. C tier seems, I don't know. Yeah, they don't exist as a tabletop faction. There's no codex entry. There's no model range. They're in novels like Legion by Dan Abnett. They're in the short story Blood Games. Parts of the Beast Arises. Hey,
God damn it! All right, never mind. Bottom of C.
So there's really just very, very little. There's no Warhammer community articles about them. I don't know. I think they're just a deep cut in the lore, which, well, I mean, that's what we do here on Lorebeards 40k. We do deep cuts in the lore. That's why I wanted them on the list. And we will do a whole episode about them in the future because they're really interesting. But I think bottom of C is probably reasonable.
All right, I'll agree with that.
They're elite enough, mysterious enough, and they are at least in, I would argue their presence is a little higher than the Brontian long knives.
Yeah, fair.
So there you go.
Now, I will say to everybody watching, if you disagree with what we are saying and you're like, no, Alexis, you're wrong. Well, you can prove me wrong by donating $10 and moving anything anywhere. You can move any one thing. Boom. There we go.
Lord Bourne says, I think C is fair. Even in the Watchers of the Throne, they were primarily name dropped without much else. Nestor Vitumbra, hey, welcome. Nestor Vitumbra says, the Lucifer Blacks during the Unification Wars of the Great Crusade were the finest elite troops in the Imperial Army, but their 40k counterparts are an inferior recreation. Finest elite troops in the Imperial Army is a bold statement, especially when the Saturnine regiments exist. So
yeah,
they base the whole training of the Solar Auxilia off of the Saturnine regiments because they were just that good. The Lucifer Blacks are good, no doubt about it, but are they retrain the entire Auxilia good? That's my first question. I think you're right though. They gain a certain amount of prestige from being part of the Great Crusade and the Unification Wars, because that is a lineage that very, very few Imperial Guard regiments can match. So good point. They are part of the reason why they're so special is because they've been around so freaking long. He also says the old Lucifer Blacks were far superior to the Tempestus Scions. The modern ones are little more than glorified grenadiers. Why would you? I mean, do you really? If you really believe the Lucifer Blacks are superior to Tempestus Scions, I'd like to know in what way. Because the Tempestus Scions are very damn good, and Lucifer Blacks are. I don't want to say glorified bodyguards because they are more than just bodyguards. They are elite and they are very, very good at what they do. But I feel like the Tempestus have like the practical experience that the Lucifer Blacks just don't typically get. I'm not saying I disagree with you entirely, but I'm pushing back a little bit. And Lord Bourne says, if not for their stupid name, they'd probably be B tier. That is a very awkward name. Lucifer Blacks is a very awkward name.
Yeah.
Hey, super chat from Insert Corey there. Put my boys from Bronze in A tier, damn it.
All right,
just for you, Corey.
Insert Corey there.
I love it. Thank you, bud. Bronze long knives.
That reminds me of those one of the dumbest jokes from Futurama that me and Victor quote all the time, which is, hey, over there. And then they go, where? And it's like, oh, sorry, I meant over here. I forgot where I was. It's such a dumb joke said in such a well-written episode that it makes me laugh so hard. And that's what their name just reminded me of.
Do you have a picture of a Maccabian Janissary, Alexis?
There's only one picture of them, and that's the one you used.
Do you have a bigger version of it we could show, or?
I could look it up while you talk about them.
Because the Maccabians have a very unique aesthetic, and it's one of the reasons why they're one of my favorite guard units. It also doesn't hurt that they were born in Dark Heresy, and I was part of the group that helped create them and describe who they are and what they do. These guys are great. The Janissaries, this is a unit that is raised from a shrine world called Maccabius. Maccabius Quintus, which is in the Calixtus sector. And it is dominated by the cult of St. Drusus, who is a warrior saint. Also, one of those guys who returned from the dead, Alexis, by the way, St. Drusus.
Ooh, nice.
So the regiments are essentially holy warriors who are raised to prosecute the ongoing crusade of St. Drusus across the sector. Basically, the Maccabians are very, very much like your crusading knights in a lot of ways. The name and the concept echo the historical Ottoman Janissaries, who also had a really awesome face mask and particular design. The Maccabians are elite, centrally controlled troops with strong religious training, and they have a reputation for both discipline and ferocity. They're just like really pious, really skilled, and rarely runaway guardsmen. I know that sounds pretty pedestrian, but it is very effective in both real world tactics and often in 40k. Having that little extra bit of leadership doesn't hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I were to give these guys rules in 40k, I would definitely give them some kind of leadership advantage, because they are defined by their unyielding faith in the God Emperor and the veneration of Saint Drusus. These guys are zealots. It is part of their core identity to be all about Saint Drusus and the Emperor. Their whole life is based around religious rites. They have, prayers before combat. They have prayers before breakfast. They have litanies in their marching songs, and their battlefield their battlefield orders are more like sermons from their officers. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to prosecute war against the orc.
Weirdly enough, they kind of remind me again of the AdMac.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Their regimental discipline is really strong because they have that spiritual side of them, and cowardice is not seen as merely a failure, but as heresy against the Emperor of St. Drusus. How dare you run away? Okay, we've got an image.
I got an image of them.
There we go. Yeah, see, the Janissaries have the death mask of St. Drusus as part of their gear. So they all wear this, which is part of a Janissary, like the Ottoman Janissaries also had this face mask aspect to them. I think they just look cool as hell. It's part of the reason why I love these guys.
Yeah.
It's
also really easy to convert these guys because all it is the Sigmarite head.
Yeah, you could do it that way. So they're typically like a hammer type unit. You send these guys in to take ground and hold it. They also escort pilgrimage forces. They are purification forces on any place that may be, suspect if they have corruption or mutants or something like that. So they blend the role of a holy warrior and soldier a little bit. They're almost Fraterus militia. We were like, how close could you get to Fraterus militia and still be Imperial Guard? That's the Maccabean Janissaries.
About this close.
They do wear carapace armor. They do wear respirators and photovisors. Their officers typically carry a monosword, which is like a really nice regular blade, and plasma pistols. And they favor las cannons and grenade launchers. And
it's actually cool to see them get grenade launchers as a primary weapon because
that was me. I love guard grenade launchers because they're the Space Marines don't have them. The Sisters of Battle don't have them. The Adeptus Mechanicus does not have grenade launchers. So I was like, let's feature the grenade launcher here because it's actually like I wouldn't say it's an exceptionally great weapon, but it's a really fun weapon.
I mean, yeah, I like it.
So yeah, I think. So I'm sorry, one more time. They are so tightly bound to their shrine worlds of their regiment that they come across as aloof or even judgmental. Other regiments are like, man, those guys are always looking at me, and it feels like they're judging me. It always feels like these guys think that they're a little bit better than everyone else. That's true. The Maccabeans do think they're a little bit better than everyone else. And they do like to fight alongside Inquisitors. They even like to fight alongside the Sororitas, Alexis.
Ooh.
They very much like to fight alongside the Sororitas. So they're very comfortable operating in very highly political arenas. They're fine with being part of a honor guard or a parade or anything along those lines, as much as they are on the front lines. So they're considered doctrinally pure troops, and if you are a certain type of Inquisitor, probably Ordo Malleus or Ordo Hereticus, that's probably going to be very important to you that they be doctrinally pure.
Yeah.
Or if you are even certain commanders in the Imperial Guard can just follow. The commissary gain books talk about this with the Talaran as being Emperor botherers, as being very pious. The Macabians would drive Kane crazy.
Yeah, they would.
They would drive him nuts.
Kane didn't even like the Sisters of Battle.
No, he didn't. And I think he has some very good reasons for that. So with all of that known about the Macabians, their relevance is very low. They're only ever in the role-playing books for only War and Dark Heresy. Their cool factor, I think, is pretty high. I think
they're very cool. I do agree. And for miniatures, you can very easily convert these guys. So I don't think they're even that hard to make. And I know there's plenty of 3D printing sites out there that actually make their head. So I really like them. I think, go ahead.
No.
Well, I already forgot what I was going to say. So it's your turn.
Well, I'm definitely biased when it comes to the Macabian Janissaries. You will not find an objective. This is not an objective look, because I am literally one of the creators of this unit, so this regiment. So when I say where I think they should go, I'm gonna defer to you, but I'm gonna say I think they should go into B tier.
Oh, above my precious Elysians.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they are really cool. Oh,
Put you on the spot.
But Elysians were dropped by Games Workshop, which sucks.
If the Macabians were to be picked up and have their own model range, I put them in A. But they don't have that yet.
I would bottom of C. Oh, sorry, bottom of B.
Okay, I will accept that. So bottom of B, the Macabian Janissaries, my beloved Macabians.
I like how B tier is just turning into Trench Crusade.
It really is. Ricky Chapman says Macabians are among the squads snatched by Inquisitor Nevermore. He found them outgunned by the bugs. I think he means Tyranids, and we were able to evac them, led by Kain Vesuvus. Interesting name. These stories about Ricky Chapman's role-playing games always inspire me. I think he must have a group that meets very, very often, and they must have a lot of fun because there's so many stories. I love it. Love it, Ricky Chapman. All right, well, we've gone through quite a bit, but there's still more to go. Plenty more. We may have to speed up a little bit. We've only got 90 minutes left. Mordians. Let's talk about the Mordians. Mordians are really cool. This is one of my favorite regiments. I wish they had a full list.
Give them a kill team.
Right?
Give me a Mordian squad. Please. I want them. They look silly.
Oh, wait. Did have a comment about the Macabians. Diamond Rush. Thank you, sir. This is, I just looked it up, and they were even somewhat historically accurate. Did you know the Ottomans always viewed grenades as thrown artillery? So they had hand mortars, which functioned closer to grenade launchers. Hey, that's awesome. Thank you, Diamond Rush. I want to say I was probably aware of it at the time, but that was, that was almost 17 years ago. So I can't remember if we had thought about that or not, but it makes sense. It makes sense. All right, so Mordians, the Mordian Iron Guard. Do you know who the Mordian Iron Guard are, Alexis?
The only thing that I know about them is that they're British.
They're not. They're actually not.
What?
They're Prussian.
Oh, yeah, the Prussians, and their outfits are silly, and they're featured in a Warhammer Plus show.
Are they? Oh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
They're so cool. They're one of my favorite regiments. They hail from a world called Mordian, which is a night world. It's tidally locked, so the habitable part of the planet is eternally in perpetual night. They have a crushing overpopulation issue on Mordian. So life there is very harsh. It's very regimented. It's very tightly controlled. There are very strict social hierarchies in play on Mordian. And so the citizens are drilled from birth with very, I would say, relentless discipline. The people of Mordian are the most disciplined in the Imperium. Okay, these guys, you can set your watch by when they wake up. They fold their socks in a certain way. These guys are extremely disciplined. There's to be to be a loose cannon amongst the Mordians would be considered to be extremely uptight by anyone else's standards.
Oh my god, that would drive me crazy.
This means their culture produces guardsmen. They see immaculate order and obedience as the only barrier between humanity and the darkness that surrounds them. So they feel like that's the only way to survive, is to have that order. Order. If you want to say the anti-chaos is order, these guys definitely represent it. They also embody parade ground perfection in combat. They favor close order drill. They operate in rank upon rank of very finely dressed infantry because they go to war in their parade ground outfits.
That's just silly. I mean, in
No,
40K,
it's not, because remember, they're from a night world, so they want to show off their fucking colors, man. They're from a world where it's all black all the time, and they're like, you know what, we're going out. When we go out beyond our world, we want to look damn good. They don't like to use flashy maneuvers. They prefer to just have this withering volley fire from all their disciplined ranks of troops, and their morale is very famously unshakable. They have been depicted holding the line where other regiments would break, and they stand in perfect formation under fire where most would dive for cover, which sounds stupid, but by golly, in the military, some things you just accept. There's the right way, the wrong way, and the Mordian way. And the Mordian way is to stand in perfect parade ground formation when artillery is coming down. The downside is they have a reputation for inflexibility. They are famously like, but my orders didn't say that, sir. You know.
oh no, their rules as written versus rules as intended.
They're also very harsh, not only towards the enemy, but also their own troops. Their visual identity is very strong into this immaculate uniform idea, like polished gear, polished boots, even in the midst of a mud-caked trench. That's what a Mordian is. His appearance is almost as important to him as anything else. The commissars are almost redundant amongst Mordians. Which I think is hilarious. Like the Catachans are like, well, we're just going to kill them. The Mordians like, we don't need them. We're already, we police each other, you know? The troops, they basically live under commissariat level scrutiny and self-control. And in the stories about Mordians, they're frequently used to highlight the themes of order against chaos. The unbending, brightly uniformed line of soldiers staring down the howling madness of the 41st millennium. I don't know, man. I think they're cool. I mean, I wouldn't want to be one. I wouldn't want to live on Mordia. I certainly wouldn't want to serve in their regiment. But by golly, if they had a force, if they had an Imperial Guard army of fully modeled, I'd probably buy and paint them.
It does sound like a lot of fun.
Now, let's not forget Necroplayer's request, though. What rules would you give? We didn't give rules to the Maccabians, and we need to give rules to them and to the Mordians.
I would give them a rule that says if they're shot, I would give them the Hellblaster rule. If they're shot on a 4+, they shoot back before they die. I would probably make it. I would probably make it a 3+ to represent, because it's mostly like las guns that are shooting back.
It's a 4+, but it's a 3+ if he's in base contact with another Mordian. Close order drill, right? They're all next to each other.
Yeah, I could see that. +1 to hit if they're within an inch of each other.
Or base to base contact.
Yeah.
Tightly clustered.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
What about the Maccabians? What would you give them for a rule?
I'm not sure.
I would probably start somewhere with a bonus to leadership.
Yeah, I think they would be able to unbattle shock themselves.
There you go.
Would definitely be something that they could do. Which this edition would be terrible. Next edition and 11th edition, it's going to be really good. considering you take battle shocks every turn of the game, which is really good. That's what I would give them. I
All
think
right.
the unbattle shock thing would suck compared to like sticky objectives.
Do we have a picture of a Mordian?
I can grab one. Give
Okay.
me but a moment.
Now they did have metal models prior to the major switch in the early 2000s over to all plastics all the time. The models weren't amazing. I wouldn't say they were really that great, but I liked them. I didn't hate them. A new Mordian line of figures would be really, really neat. Actually, I'd love to see a kill team of them, if nothing
I
else.
didn't mind their models too much. I thought they were quite charming.
Well,
Oh
in
wow,
that
that is a
case,
tiny, tiny picture. Thanks, Google. I love tiny pictures that you can't see.
you can under tools you can select a size to search for.
Yeah.
Mordians,
But
I think for me, the lore on them is very cool. They do have a good amount of lore because they've been around a long time, but they don't have any novels. There they are. Look at those boys. Look at how colorful they are.
I think it's charming.
I like all the braid and I like the epaulets.
Mm-hmm. I do like how unhappy this guy is right here. Look at him.
I mean, that's
He
just
is,
that's a Mordian smile. What are you talking about?
he is just he is as happy as a lamb.
That's a Mordian smile. So for me, I think their relevance is low. They haven't really played a major role in anything in quite a while.
That
But
is unfortunately true.
so
I
I'm
agree with that.
feeling B or C. Probably B. That's where I'm feeling they belong.
Yeah, because they're kind of really cool. They're so dumb, but they fit perfectly into 40k.
Yeah, I agree. And the Prussian vibe is just strong with them. I really dig it.
Yeah.
Comment from Drazina: if they were black instead of blue, they could be a black parade.
Ha.
Womp womp.
When I was a young boy.
Call them Private Grump and Corporal Grumpier, the survivor. That's good. All right, now we come to a problematic regiment that we haven't seen since the 90s because they are slightly problematic. Do you know anything about the Praetorians?
Oh,
These are
hang
the
on.
pith helmet guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know too much about them. Hang on, I'm trying to write in their name really quickly.
The Praetorians, they're styled after late Victorian British colonial troops. And the colonial troops is the reason why they are somewhat problematic. Because in
Yeah.
areas of the world other than Britain, they are the image of a colonial era British soldier is not one that most people really find that exciting. There's the pith helmets. I think they do look kind of interesting and cool. These are the guys, like the best version of these guys was the movie Zulu with Michael Caine, if you're familiar with that one.
Yep.
These are that era of troop. That's probably the best reference I can give you.
This guy in the middle with the beard kind of looks like the guy from Jumanji.
Yeah, a little
The
bit.
hunter.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So they have very bright dress uniforms. They have pith helmets. They hail from a world called Pretoria, which is very highly regimented. It's very industrialized. The upper classes treat military service as a mark of prestige. So most members of the Praetorians are, in fact, part of the aristocracy. They social hierarchy is very strict, so is their discipline. On the battlefield, Praetorians lean heavily into formal drill and set piece engagements. They are, you want to think about rigid firing lines and volley fire and standing unflinching against numerically superior foes, which is all things that the Mordians do as well, which doesn't really help them that much.
That's actually why I got them confused.
Right? Their officers are usually aristocrats, proud and arrogant, and the courage can border on suicidal stubbornness for the Praetorians. I think even more confusing is the fact that Praetorian is a term usually reserved for the bodyguard of an emperor.
Yeah.
And these guys are not. at all the bodyguards of the emperor. That's the custodians. So the name is confusing. The look is a little problematic, and they haven't been around since the 90s. So I'm going to say the relevance is pretty low.
They're controversially, I don't think they're coming back.
No, God, no.
I know that
Almost certainly not.
There are several guard regiments made in early, like late 90s, early 2000s that will probably never be back. And it's kind of a shame, but at the same time, some of them are just like, maybe don't do that.
I would say in the wider lore, these guys are kind of a beloved retro regiment with a strong visual hook. And if you want to evoke the idea of colonialism in 40k, they would be a good way to do that. Kind of like the way the Last Chancers evoke certain totalitarian themes.
Now, what I think they should do is actually move towards the newer artwork.
Oh yeah, God, that would be wild. That would be much better.
Yeah. Because this
That
way
would
they
be
still
much
have
better.
the pith helmet, but it's now a little bit different. And it looks a bit more, well, it actually looks more 40k in my opinion.
I like the lion emblem though. That's very Victorian, and that would be very cool to put on them as their regimental emblem. The lion, the red lion, that'd be really cool. In my first, well, not my first, one of the units I served with in the army was the first of the 81st Armor, and they were the Red Lions. So I kind of like the Red Lion.
That's fair.
Yeah, Chad's pointing out those are two different regiments you were showing.
They are, but what I'm saying is I want them to look more like this
Ventralins,
than,
yeah. More Ventralins, less colonial.
Sorry, I made that point very poorly. My apologies.
It's fine. It's fine. I think for me, unfortunately, Praetorians are D tier.
Yeah. They're British.
That's just a reality of that's just a reality of who they are. A little care and attention from a really good author and some really good design choices, I think, could elevate them out of this and make them far less problematic. We've seen Games Workshop do this before. It's only a question of whether they want to ever return to it. You never know. 10 years, 20 years down the line, we might see something. You never know. But as it is, I think they're fine in D tier.
I'd agree with that.
All right, we got one of your favorites coming up.
Ooh.
The Salvar Chem Dogs.
Hell yeah. Good old Chem Dogs. My druggy boys.
Salvar Chem Dogs. If I could add one unit to this list, I would have had the Roan Deepers, but there's just not very much about them known. So, womp womp.
I still have to read the Chem Dogs new book that just came out.
The Chem Dogs. They are the guest stars in a whole bunch of 40k novels. There's a whole bunch of 40k novels. Even the Minka Lesk novels are ones that they appear in that come to mind, but they're in a whole bunch of other ones as well. These are penal regiments, kind of like Last Chancers, but there's far more of them. There are entire regiments, not just a single squad. They come from a toxic prison world called Savlar, excuse me. I think they're misspelled on the. They're misspelled on the tier maker. Hawk, you misspelled them. That's no big deal. Trust me, I do it all the time.
I'm dyslexic. I can't spell. So
the Savlar Chem Dogs. So their homeworld is a planet used as a dumping ground for criminals and political undesirables. It's Space Australia, just not Catachan.
Just not as cool,
right? Well, the atmosphere and environment on Savlar is very heavily polluted. So the inmates and the guards live in sealed habitats, and they wear respirators whenever they go outside. Respirators, not gas masks. Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Although if you put a Chem Dog next to a Steel Legion, next to a Kriegsman, you might be like, which one's which? Because they all have their face covered with something. Go ahead.
I always viewed like the Deathcore Krieg gas mask as a properly working gas mask. Then you got the Armageddon Steel Legion's gas mask. Practical. It works. It can be made in mass. It's not as efficient, but that's fine. Then you have the Chem Dogs gas mask, respirator, which is basically the thing from fucking Mad Max. Right. Witness.
Witness me. We got a super chat from Necro Player. I have to say, I'm starting to see why we don't see many regiments anymore. With a slight exception to aesthetic, Games Workshop really has a problem creating differences. Some of these are practically identical. Yes. Yes, you're right. The Steel Legion and the Kriegsmen have a lot in common. The Mordians and the Praetorians have a lot in common. Yeah, there's the differences are starting to get a little muddy. I agree.
The Cadians and everybody.
And Ricky Chapman, once again, read the Chemdogs book. Freaking fantastic.
I need to. Does it have an audiobook already? Because if it has an audiobook, I have 10 shields I need to make, and I need something to listen to while I'm doing that.
Survivor points out, he says, I see no Adelan Rough Riders or Harakoni Warhawks. Adelan Rough Riders, I did not include them because I felt they were too limited. They're just space Mongols. They're guys on horses. I'm sorry. Blame it on me. I'm the one who made that call. Harakoni Warhawks, I also made the call that they just weren't prominent enough. And I realize that sounds weird when we're covering guys like the Centillan Fusiliers and the Brontian Long Knives. It's just personal preference. If somebody wants to pay a $10 super chat, I will put Harakoni Warhawks on the list. Rough Riders, though, sorry. I just don't see any value in the Rough Riders. Okie dokie. But thanks. I just wanted to make sure and address that. And Lord Vorn says, pith helmets are still widely used. The British red coat is very much in use by the British Army. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. They just need to work on the Praetorians in a way where they don't remind you of horrible things from history. Let's just put it that way. Okay, Wolf Boy, 10 pounds. He says, Praetorians never yield. They're bumped up by 1. Okay, you know what? There you go. They are top of C tier now. Congratulations, right. Wolf Boy. Thank you for that. Oh, great Nagash avatar there. I love it.
Oh, it's on Audible.
It's on Audible, says Ricky Chapman. Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't support Audible, but I will pirate it.
Well, let's talk some more about the Savoir Chemdogs.
I mean, I'll totally download it from a legal source.
So the Savoir Chemdogs culture on their prison world, it's given them this reputation for scavenging and smuggling and survival at any cost. And this does carry over into the regiments. Rather than this big untrained horde of prisoners, the Chemdogs are often depicted as surprisingly competent fighters. They're hardened by life in their prisons, and they're used to improvising with whatever they have on hand or whatever they can steal. Because Ratlings and Savoir Chemdogs steal everything according to the lore. These guys are very light-fingered. They're notorious for looting both enemies and allies. They strip the battlefield of gear, ammunition, and trophies. The Savoir Chemdogs are the guys who would end up with a necklace of ears, which is gross. There you go.
Now, I do want to put these up here because the Chemdogs have an multiple articles on how to convert them. And they're gene stealer cultists, which is super cool. Like, I love that.
Basis. That's the not that the regiment are gene stealer cultists, but instead the models are based on the gene stealer cult models. To be clear, for anyone listening who can't see us, that's why I wanted to clarify what Alexis said right there.
Yes, they are not gene stealer cultists. The models that you use to convert into them are gene stealer cultists that you convert into guardsmen.
You know, they're not that different than gene stealer cultists, though, either. So, anyway, the fighting style of the Savoir Chemdogs, obviously it leans into the fact that they've acquired quite a bit of equipment. They have a lot of mismatched uniforms, but they have a preference for cover and dirty tricks and opportunistic engagements like ambushes rather than any sort of formal war doctrine. Their motivation is usually a mix of greed and self-preservation because the Chemdogs, they don't fight so much out of loyalty to the Imperium, but because they can earn better conditions, maybe more loot, and maybe possibly a distant promise of a pardon if they survive a war zone.
Yeah.
This is a very unique penal legion, I should say.
They also make use of all of the stims.
Yeah, they are hardcore into the combat drugs.
They have so many different combat drugs, and I love it. Like in our Horus Heresy RPG, these were the people that we bought all the combat stims from.
Dark Heresy, you mean?
Yeah. What did I
Not
say?
You said Horus Heresy.
Oh, sorry, Dark Heresy. Sorry, my bad. My bad. But we actually got what is it? Sight from them, which is the drug that temporarily turns you into a psyker.
That'll happen. Basically, these are the scumbag survivors of the Astra Militarum. These guys are unreliable in any matters of discipline or honor, but they're perfectly good at staying alive in the most hellish environments. And they have a really good book. So I would say relevance is high, coolness is high. Unfortunately, I don't have any official models. And the lore is not bad. So B tier, A tier.
I really like the lore. I really like the fact that they've put out multiple things to show you how to convert them. I love the idea that there is just a bunch of crackheads army. Like, this is the guy from outside 7-Eleven that was given a regiment.
You know what? I hate that I know exactly what you mean. What do you think about B tier?
I'm going B tier. I'm going right behind Mordians. I'm going right where you put them. I think they're really, really fun.
Lorebeards 40k has Dust from Babylon 5. Yeah.
Yes.
Very similar. 40k does have that. Istian Lion is the guy mentioning this. He says, that's hilarious. In that setting, it made you a temporary telepath. That's basically what Sight does. Although I don't think you can guarantee any particular power.
You can't guarantee how long it lasts and how much power it gives you. But you can pop it into you and have every demon in the room look directly at you, which is what I used it for.
I'm gonna have to head out for just a couple of minutes. I'll be right back. Can you take over and talk about one of these other regiments? Pick any one you want, and I will be back very, very shortly.
Oh no, I can't move anything on the thingy, but that's fine.
That's fine. Just talk about it.
Oh, and he's gone forever. We will never see him again. But I am going to look up the Armageddon Steel Legion really quickly because I want to talk about the Armageddon Steel Legion. Armageddon Steel Legionnaires. So, the Armageddon Steel Legionnaires, who are they? They are one of the most famous of the Guard regiments in all of 40k and the history of forever. And for the longest time, they were actually what you see when you look at Warhammer. They are in most of the games. They are, well, early games. They are the Defenders of Armageddon, thus where they come from. They are the Steel Legion because typically they are used in heavy convoys, mostly chimeric warfare, where they have chimeras they jump out of. They have tons and tons and millions of tanks. Their home planet is a Forge World, which makes a ton of different vehicles for the Imperium. They produce the most chimeras in the entire galaxy. And these guys they're actually kind of incredible. I really like them. The Armageddon Steel Legion fought against Chaos, fought against the Orcs, fought against the Orcs again, fought against Chaos again, fought against Orcs again. The most famous battle in Warhammer 40k, the Battle for Armageddon, pitted Gosgo Meg Uruk Thraka versus oh my god, why is my brain going blank?
I'm back.
And they have the most famous commissar ever. They have one of the most famous battles ever. It is several video games. It is several tabletop games. It absolutely amazing. And they're yellow. Look at them. They are mustard flavored.
They are mustard flavored. So they're from obviously the Hive World of Armageddon, which is going to be big in 11th edition.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting new models
in 2 years.
So Armageddon, as you may or may not know, is a heavily industrialized planet. They produce a whole lot of gear for the Imperial Guard, including, I think, the Chimeras.
They produce the most Chimeras in the entire galaxy.
And they have had multiple wars against the orcs, which is where
world leaders for some reason.
Yeah, and world leaders, but mostly against the orcs, and this is why the Steel Legion have a reputation for being really good at fighting, because they've fought off the orcs a few times. They specialize in mobile warfare, typically as what are called armored fist squads, which is a squad that uses a chimera as a transport, and the transports drive across the ash wastes of Armageddon. They drive up to the hive outskirts or the industrial battlefields. Like there's like whole regions on Armageddon that are just like oil fields and chem sumps and weird industrial byproducts, essentially. So the Steel Legion can rapidly redeploy wherever they need to be at any given point in a battle. Their doctrine combines hard-hitting armored thrusts with disciplined infantry support. So they're one of the go-to options for the Imperial Guard as far as urban and industrial biomes for battlefields. Oh, we've got some super chats here. We got one from Ricky Chapman. We do have chem dogs led by Scud. That's a great name. Our rogue traders slip some nice chems if they find anything exotic on the battlefield. The chem dogs with a Scud is a great name for a chem dog. And yeah, having them scavenge the battlefield after a fight is a really good idea. I like that. If I was a rogue, I'd use them for. I'd be like, you boys go out there and bring me anything fun you find. Nestor Vitumbra, before I go, $10 or £10 super chat, or €10 super chat, I think. He says, Vostroyans to S. Groff Harazon and his men knew from the start that Medusa 5 was doomed even if they won, and yet they decided to stay and cover the evacuation of billions of civilians. Vostroyans to S tier. Okay, sir, you got it.
Vostroyans are super cool as well.
Boop. Vostroyans to S tier.
We will talk about them after we get done with the Armageddon Steel Legion.
All of our S tier is super chats, I should point out. Okay, very, very cool. Nestor Vitumbra, thank you, says Drazina. I was going to do that anyways. So Steel Legion, we do need to speed up. We have not that much time left.
Nonsense. We're going at the perfect pace.
Steel Legion guys are basically they are the quintessential mechanized infantry. These guys, life on Armageddon is grim, but not as grim as Krieg and not as grim as Mordian. It's a nicer place than both of those places, but it's still not a very nice place. So the orc invasions are kind of a recurring trauma that these guys have to deal with. So that makes the Steel Legion pragmatic and hardened, very familiar with Xenos warfare. And they often regard orcs, kind of like Valhallans do, as a ancestral enemy. Like it's just that's who we fight. We fight orcs, and they hate orcs more than anyone else. That's true of the Valhallans as well. They've earned a reputation for being especially tenacious against greenskins. Like they hold their ground even harder against orcs than anyone else. This is the industrial war regiment. These guys, they're gas mask soldiers. They advance through toxic winds. They have columns of armor that travel across all these ash-choked wastelands. They're a little bit Mad Max when it comes to Imperial Guard units, but they do lack a little bit of character, in my opinion. I don't think the Steel Legion has much going for them except for their look, which is admittedly distinct.
I don't know. They have Commissar Yarrick.
Is Yarrick a member of the Steel Legion? He's not, because remember, commissariats. The commissariat is not
a member. I will fully agree with that, but he has never left Armageddon.
No, he has.
Well, aside from going after the orcs and then coming back.
He has left Armageddon. In fact, he just recently returned to Armageddon.
Yes. But I will say, I absolutely love the Steel Legion, and I'm gonna put it out there. Steel Legion is what inspired the Krieg.
Yeah.
They had really, really cool looking models. We know that their new models are coming in 2 years, or a year and a half if GW speeds it up. We know that all of 11th edition is going to be based a little bit around them, kind of like how 10th edition was based kind of around the Tyranids. I'm going to say top of B.
Ooh, that's tough. Don't know if I agree with that. I don't know, man.
I mean, their planet is known as the war world for a
Yeah,
reason.
it's very relevant. I would put them in C, honestly. But B tier is not out of the question. Let's say, how about there for B?
Oh, I don't know if I'd put them above the Janissaries.
Better than Chem Dogs?
Yes.
Better than Mordians?
Yes.
Better than Krieg?
I would say no, not right now.
Okay,
Once they get their models, yes.
maybe. And Ricky Chapman has super chat. Necromundan spiders to S. Okay, we're definitely not. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the Necromundan spiders because they have been out of the lore for a very long time, but they are an old school regiments of the Imperial Guard. I will see. I think I can find I think I could find an image of them. Let me see if that's something I can find. Meanwhile, please. Oh yeah, I did find one.
I know.
Okay.
I know what I'll say right now. If I were to put Armageddon Steel Legion's troop choice as to have a special ability, it would be that if an opponent moved within 9 inches of them, they could embark upon a transport.
Yeah, yeah. Free embark, disembark would be very, very good.
Yeah,
I agree.
or at the end of a movement, they can just embark automatically, and still like shoot and move. I
So
think that
there's
would be their stuff.
Ricky Chapman. There's your Necromundan spiders up there. I put him into S tier. But they're such an old regiment that they haven't been featured outside of the role playing game where we definitely included them in Only War. But that was 17 years ago, and I think that was the first time they'd been mentioned in quite a while. Do you ever see Steel Legionnaires away from Armageddon? Yes, they do deploy
Yeah,
outside of it.
they do show up every now and then. I think they showed up Acadia.
Maybe. I don't recall.
I'll have to get the full list of everyone that showed up to Cadia.
All right, so now we're on to the Scintillan Fusiliers, and these are another one from Dark Heresy and Only War. These guys are pretty fun. They hail from the hive world of Scintilla, which is in fact the capital world of the Calixis sector. Can you find an image of them that we can show? Because they have like a really cool tricorn hat kind of image.
Alrighty.
So Scintilla is a very rich and politically important world, has a very entrenched noble class, very elaborate high culture. So the officers and rank and file of the Scintillan Fusiliers come from the aristocracy or very wealthy families, kind of like the Lucifer Blacks, kind of like the Praetorians. So military service in the Fusiliers is considered a mark of status. That makes them very ostentatiously well equipped in terms of guard units. They're well drilled, they're well armed, they're used mostly in roles where appearance and symbolism matters more than raw battlefield effectiveness. They are absolutely a trophy regiment, the Scintillan Fusiliers are. They usually assign things like honor guards or sector capitals. If there's a point in your campaign where you need glamorous, elite-looking troops to send a political message, the Scintillan Fusiliers are your boys. That's who you said. Their uniforms and war gear are very finely crafted. They're decorated with gilt and heraldry, and they are very carefully maintained even during a long, protracted campaign. You'll see this the Fusiliers out there polishing all their medals and all their weapons and all their stuff. And we have an image here. Okay, there they are. Look at that. They have a cool.
That is such a weird head.
Look at that tricorn. It's supposed to be a tricorn hat type helmet.
I like them. They got the special pants.
They got the pantaloons. Yeah, they got pantaloons. So the Fusiliers, they mix genuine professionalism with aristocratic pomp. These are a lot of people in the Guard like to look at these guys as dilettantes playing at war, but the others say that they are in fact deadly serious soldiers. They see service as the highest expression of their noble duty. It's like a noblesse obligée, if you think of it in a certain way. Their regimental pride runs very, very high, and they have a lot of personal dueling codes and honor feuds, stuff that can simmer underneath the surface in any battlefield. And in the broader Astra Militarum, these guys are kind of the refined, almost more Baroque version of soldiers compared to the more workman-like Cadians or Valhallans or Catachans. So yeah, you would see these guys in the War Master's entourage or the general's command's tent. Probably has an honor guard of Scintillant Fusiliers, things like that. They're not especially great soldiers, but they are very thematic, I would say, for a certain type of soldier.
I like them.
And we got a comment here that says, men in pantaloons being pompous? Never, says Drazina. Quite
It took me so long to find Victor pantaloons.
Diamond says, so they're absolutely the best regiment he drilled into. You know, if I had to serve in an Imperial Guard regiment, the Fusiliers would be one I would be probably pretty happy about. I'd be like, well, it still sucks, but it's better than a lot of other options.
It's fair.
That's for sure. That is for sure. Scintillant Fusiliers, I want to say bottom of C.
I would say D.
Top
My reasoning, I think the Last Chancers, because they have models, no matter how ugly they are.
You're right. That's fair.
No models. Lore is okay, and like their whole thing is that they're
not relevant. They're seen but not heard.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Scintillant Fusiliers are probably D tier. But by golly, they are interesting. That's why I wanted to make sure I include them.
Weirdly enough, how I would include them into a 40k game is I would make them an attaché unit where you take 1 to 2 of them and put them into a squad, and they can just absorb more wounds for your HQ. They act as bodyguard unit.
Or they might have a small leadership bubble boost, morale boost, or they might have just the symbolism of it. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, like you attach them to a unit, and that unit has +1 to their leadership.
Yeah, there you go. A Scintillant Fusilier.
Yeah, they're only like maybe 30 points for the 2 of them.
All right. Now we come to the Talarns, my beloved Talarns. Talarn is a very harsh
raiders.
Talarn is a very harsh desert world in the Segmentum Tempestus. And most of its surface was reduced to an irradiated wasteland after a devastating chaos attack during the Horus Heresy. The Iron Warriors virus bombed.
It's such a good book because in the book itself, there's a bunch of people joyriding essentially a broken down. It's not a Malkador. It's some tank that is unnamed, but it might actually be like one of the newer design tanks, which I think is just super cool. But they're in a tank and their planet's being virus bombed, and they're just like, what the hell is happening? Can you go outside and take a look? And they're like, okay, let me put the suit on. They pop out, they look, and they're like, there's a tank ahead of us. And they line up the Vanquisher cannon, and they're doing it by sight because none of their gear is working. Auspexes are completely down. And a tank shell goes flying past them, and they're like, they can't see us. They move over. They shoot. They miss. They use tracer rounds to find the enemy tank, and then they blast it. And then they finally drive up to where the tank they destroyed is, and they look out, and they're like, we just killed Space Marines.
I think that's a John French novel, isn't it?
It is, and it's so good. It's such a good book because it actually describes like warfare from inside a tank very well, where you have a guy like turning, like actually cranking to turn the turret and load in the shell, and they're just like, this tank is so ancient.
Well, Talarn was also the site of the biggest tank battle in the entire Imperium history. The greatest armored engagement ever known was during the Horus Heresy, where the Talarn tank regiments dueled the Iron Warriors and other Chaos forces. And they were doing it amongst all these toxic ruins and desert dunes. It was pretty wild. So, the Iron Warriors virus bombed the planet. It used to be very nice. Talarn used to be like a very lush world, but it got reduced to desert by this virus bomb attack. And the planet had never really recovered from that. Everyone kind of just adapted to living life underground on Talarn. And then they just learned how to operate in the endless desert that was their birthright. You know, that's all they had. So the experience of surviving extermination and learning to fight back from the sands defines their culture and their military traditions. Now, these guys are very much the Lawrence of Arabia in space.
Mm-hmm.
They have the head wraps, they have the little capelets. You know, they're I like their look. I think they look very cool. But they have their society is built around a lot of tribal / clan structures, strong warrior traditions, and after their world was screwed up, they became nomadic. They were able to, you know, go from different underground or habdomes, if you will, on the world, and so they didn't have to just stay in one place anymore. The whole thing about them is, you know, desert guerrillas, mujahideen, desert raiders. That's their whole thing. Faith is strong. Honor codes are strong. Some portrayals lean into very fundamentalist attitudes, like in the Kane novels. They're treated as very very biased to the point of Kane calling them God emperor botherers.
Yeah.
But they're also characterized as very tough and resourceful, and they're very proud of outfoxing heavier enemy forces through cunning rather than brute strength. So they like to think of themselves as the thinking man's regiment. You know, they're drilled in tactics and strategy to a level that most regiments are not.
Now, they do have two really cool things that I want to talk about. One, they have their own sentinel. Their sentinel has very wide feet so that it could walk on top of the sand. Their Leman Russes are double tracked to drive on top of the sand. I just thought that was pretty neat. I was like, they have adaptations for fighting in desert worlds that most regiments don't.
Yeah, they're a little bit kind of like the White Scars in that they specialize in mobile warfare and reconnaissance and hit and run attacks. They make extensive use of very fast vehicles like Scout Sentinels and Rough Riders and light tanks and transports. They're very adept at ambushes and feints and sudden strikes before melting back into the dunes. These guys are one of my favorite regiments. I really, really like them. And they play a major role in the game that I'm playing right now, Final Liberation, on Twitch. So for me, this is easy A tier. Their lore is top notch. Their look is top notch. They don't have models, but the models they do have are interesting.
They also have a dinosaur that they ride.
Yes.
I want to find this picture of it really quickly because it is so bizarre. Let me see if I can find the model. Because it's one of their Rough Riders.
Yeah, the Rough Riders use a particular creature. Mukali is what it's called. And the Mukali are these desert adapted war beasts indigenous to the wastelands. They're kind of like camels in that they are trusted and very hardy animals that can survive long periods without much water or endure extreme conditions. There's never been a dedicated kit for the Mukali, unfortunately.
Wait, there it is. Ah, perfect. I just need to find a actual image that isn't tiny. Okay, there we go. Boop. Look at him.
That's what a Mukali looks like. I think is that a Forge World?
That's the Forge World kit.
Right. The Forge World had a Resi kit for him. That's right.
Yep, single one.
That's the Mukali, which is the 40k equivalent of a camel, basically.
Yep.
So I'm going to say A. What do you think?
Okay. The book in which they fight and beat the Iron Warriors. Absolute cinema. So I'm going A tier.
All right.
I like the Talarn so much they inspired me to actually want to build Vanquishers. And now I have 7 Vanquisher tanks. But we do have some super chats here. We have one from Murky Chapman.
We also have Steel Legion. We needed a ride hijacked. Their Chimera and Solomon Van Vac. We needed a ride. We hijacked their Chimera, and Solomon von Vach, which I think is the name of the character. And their men have been with us ever since.
Nice.
Huh. Interesting. Rick Chapman, correct me if I got that wrong. I probably butchered that. Spitfire says, when building a regiment in only war, one of the options gives you 15 extra points to make your standard kit. The Scintillans are made with an extra 25 points instead, which is enough for S tier.
You know what?
There they go. Scintillans to S tier. Thank you, Spitfire. Woo! Somebody read Only War. I love it. I love it. Fun fact, Only War started out as a source book for Dark Heresy. But while we were working on it, we realized there was just so much material and so much potential that we were like, let's just make it its own game. So we reversed course, and the team that had been working on it as a source book transitioned to working on it as its own game line, which began right as I was leaving Fantasy Flight. But I did work on the core book, and I worked on a couple of the supplements as well. So I know a lot about it. Thank you, Spitfire, and thank you, Ricky Chapman. Okie doke. So now we're on to possibly the most famous Guard regiment of them all. The Tanith First and Only.
Yeah,
now,
the Tanith are really cool.
Have you ever heard of them?
Okay, yes, I have. They're insanely powerful.
Have you ever heard about the Tanith First and Only? Okay, so
Just
tell how are they in the 10th edition rule set?
They're in every single tournament winning army.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, they're really good. They can give orders when they deep strike. They can deep strike. They come in. You can give orders like after something has already been ordered to move. You can then deep strike them, give them take aim, and themselves take aim and hit on threes. They're insanely good.
Well, their squad that you can field in 40k does include 3 colonels. So that the amount of orders they can issue does make a lot of sense if you consider just how many goddamn officers are in that squad.
Yes. Oh, also.
Yeah. Wait. Comment. Wolfboy says, bagpipe sounds increase.
I did want to point out that what the Talarn ride is essentially this creature.
Yeah, but more Star Wars.
No, Star Wars also took this exact creature.
Well, no ears though on the Macaulay, yeah. But yes, very similar. Very similar.
I knew I could find it. That's the Paracathium, something. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name.
So let's talk about
recognized it.
Let's talk about the Tanith now. They are originated from a forest world called Tanith, which was lost to a chaos invasion during the founding, during the time when they were assembling and getting on the ships to be the very first regiment from their world. That's when chaos attacked and destroyed their world. So that's why they're called the Tanith First and Only. The first wave of regiments managed to escape, and they are best known through the Gaunt's Ghosts novel series because they are portrayed as a very tight-knit band of refugees and scouts that carry around the memory of their dead world. The Tanith itself was a world of deep forests and hunters, so the Tanith Regiment specializes in stealth, reconnaissance, and light infantry operations. The characters of the Tanith First and Only are literally insanely good. The scout Captain McCall has killed in one-on-one combat a Chaos Dreadnought. What else has he killed? Like a whole bunch of stuff. Like McCall is just ridiculous. And the Colonel Gaunt, which is the Colonel Commissar Gaunt, is their commander. He's also done a lot of crazy stuff. Talk about the Tanith a little bit for me. What's your opinion of them?
They're insane. They're incredibly good. They set a standard so high for the guardsmen that when people read those books and read other guard books, they expect guard to actually do something and then they die. They have done stuff that makes Space Marines look lacking. They are insanely efficient at what they do. They are specialists at killing particular targets. And in 10th edition, they are so goddamn powerful that it's crazy. Also, an autocannon that always shoots every turn is crazy.
Oh, and McCall is the guy who killed the Mandrake in single combat. and
Yep.
he was more stealthy than the Mandrake.
Yep.
Holy shit, right? No, I guess it's Larkin that killed the Chaos Dreadnought, but God, there's the individual exploits of this squad are crazy, but they have. Oh, Survivor says, how do I donate $10 on Twitch via bits? I don't know. Lord Voron, do you know the answer? That's a good question.
Yeah, I know it's bits, but I don't know how much bits to I don't know enough about Twitch. I'm sorry.
So lore-wise, the Tanith are best here, period, because their novels are the best novels in 40k. Frankly, they are just so damn good. Trader,
They also have insanely good models.
they do. Trader General is a novel you absolutely must read. Necropolis is really really good. Sabbath Martyr. There's a ton of really really great books. Lord Voron says the answer is 100 bits is £1, £1 British pound.
So
I
would
think
that be 1,000 bits?
that seems about right.
That's how math works.
And Wolfboy points out these are the ones that are inspired by Sharp. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Sharp's rifles inspired Tanith first and only more than anyone else. The Tanith Guardsmen, they carry around really profound survivor's guilt. I can speak English. They carry around survivor's guilt as well as silver knives called straight silver when they want to fix bayonets. They have a really strong sense of identity in that they have these tribal marks and tattoos. They have these particular cloaks they wear. Traditions from their homeworld become very sacred. It's because it's one of the few things they have left. They don't have a homeworld anymore. Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt is their leader, and he has helped them develop a very strong familial bond where the members of the regiment treat the regiment as home because they don't have anything else to call home. They use long las, which is the first time we've ever heard of that, was in the novels. Long las is a sniper variant of the las gun. That's an image on screen of Gaunt and the Tainted First and Only on the right, and they're fighting the Blood Pact, I think, on the left,
it's the Blood Pact.
Trader Guardsmen that have a really Trader Guard are rarely seen as being extremely well drilled and skilled, but the Blood Pact is the exception. So Survivor says, race my Steel Legion to S tier, transports and all. You got it, buddy. Yeah. Here we go. The Steel Legion to S tier. Boom. And I think these are all paid for. So yeah, that's the correct order.
See, they understand it. They know what's up.
I don't like the Steel Legion as much as you do, but hey.
Look, you are entitled to the wrong opinions. Joking.
So Lord Voron says that's where they should be, damn it. All right, so I think Tanith, though, is a natural S tier. Like, I don't see any other place for them.
I fully agree with you. Their models are cool. I don't think we could put them in the top of S tier because S tier was all paid for.
So this is the only native S tier is the Tanith.
I think their novels are great. Their lore is great. Their artwork is great. Their miniatures are fantastic. Their rules are amazing. Everything about them is really good.
Agreed. I have no notes. The Tanith first appeared in a short story in Inferno, and I was actually working at Games Workshop when this was published. And the amount of love for the Tanith within Games Workshop was very, very high. The entire mail order department in the US, they got together and petitioned Dan Abnett to get killed in a novel. And I think Sabbath Martyr is the novel where they all get murdered by Ku. I think Ku kills him, which is one of the traitors in the Tanith. I think. I could be wrong, but they end up getting killed at some point, and it's the entire mail order team because they were just so into this book series, and it is an amazing book series. It's really good. There's also a background book called The Sabbath Crusade that you could probably find on eBay. It's out of print, but it's amazing. Survivor, we need an F tier for the Planetary Defense Forces, all of them.
Planetary Defense Forces are trying their best.
We need to talk about the Vistorian Firstborn because we were reminded by Wolfboy we haven't talked about them yet. Let's talk about the Vistorians.
The good old Russians, led by Rasputin himself.
Right. We need to remember not to miss them, so that's a good point. The Vistorian Firstborn, they come from a world called Vistroia. It's an industrial world, a lot like Armageddon. However, Vistroia once failed to provide troops for the Imperium at a critical moment. And this created a sense of guilt, kind of like the Krieg. And to atone for this, the planet pledged that the firstborn child of every noble family and every guild family would be henceforth serve in the Imperial Guard. So that's why they're called the Firstborn. This oath shapes the society of the regiment because duty to the Imperium and repayment of that ancient debt are the central cultural pillars upon which they rest. They were also based on a sketch by John Blanche. It's a really cool looking sketch, and they have these really tall fur hats. I think they're called shakos. Is the type of hat? I think it's what it's called. They are elite line infantry. They fight with very ornate weapons, very Baroque armor. They have a lot of fur trimmings and tall hats, kind of like the they're basically the Chaos Dwarfs of the Astra Militarum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to look at them.
They have a very rich Napoleonic Russian look, or Tsarist look, Tsarist Imperial Russia, I guess. On the field, they're dependable and courageous. They use a lot of volley fire. They use a lot of combined arms. They're capable in close quarters fighting due to their heavy gear and their veteran status. And many of them are older, battle-hardened soldiers rather than raw recruits. So they are kind of the older men of the Guard. Honor and tradition and family play a huge role in their identity. Many Vosrians carry heirloom weapons and armor pieces passed down and reconsecrated from one generation to the next. They view dying as a profound disgrace unless it's done in valiant service to the Imperium. So they're Krieg light. It's another way to think of them, is they're Krieg light.
Mm-hmm.
They're arrogant towards less cultured regiments, but they do respect courage and competence, and their loyalty to the Imperium is ironclad. Where would you put these on the list, Alexis?
So their models actually just came back to Games Workshop, the actual metal models, mind you, which was crazy. It was a buy while they still had supply of it. They're basically digging through the trenches of their old stuff and like, hey, Vistroians, we could sell these. The Vistorian hat, the Vistorian aesthetic looks really good, and I really do like them. The whole gold and red thing looks really good. And
Lord Moore points out they have a meme where they brew premium kvass, which is basically vodka, from the Vistorian potato bear.
I can see that. Have you ever had kvass?
Kvass? No.
It's really good.
Josina Kaishian says, my two favorites are both S, so knock Nurgle down to T so he doesn't infect my tainted Vistorians.
Yes!
Nurgle's hanging out with the last chancers now. There you go. Also, they have a strong family vibe because of their requirement policy. That's true.
I think they're fine. Like, if they had a kill team, I think they would be, like, more up there, but they are really, really, really good looking miniatures. I'm gonna say bottom of B tier.
That's exactly where I was gonna put them. We're thinking alike. I was gonna say B tier, but they're not quite as cool as some of the other entries on B. But they're obviously staying in S because people have paid for it. So there you go.
Yes.
Do you remember that excellent art, says Lord Foreign, for the urban warfare game mode from earlier editions of a Vistorian running a Tau Breacher through with his sword? Yes, that is super cool art. I do remember that.
I wonder if I could find that artwork. So I'll find that, and yeah.
I'll talk about the Tempestus Scions. Now we get to the real glory boys. The Militarum Tempestus, the Stormtroopers. Tempestus Scions are the elite of the elite, the best of the best in the Astra Militarum. These are recruited from the Scala Progenium, which is the same place we get Commissars and Sisters of Battle from. Actually, sororitas in general, I should say, not just Sisters of Battle, but sororitas in general, commissars, and a few other things is what the Scala Progenium. It's essentially orphanages for Imperial heroes. There it is. That's the art. Yeah, God, that looks cool. Run him through.
It's such good artwork. Also, look at that flamer in the corner.
Yeah, that's Karl Kapinski, I think. There.
Yep, it looks amazing. Yeah, I love this art. I could look at this artwork all day. I love it.
The Tempestus Scions receive a very harsh training and indoctrination. They excel at martial aptitude and are one of the most. They're basically the most highly trained human infantry in the Imperium. Period. You could argue that assassins are more highly trained, but you could also argue they're not actually humans, not actually infantry. So there's that. The Lucifer Blacks, we talked about them before. I would put them just below Tempestus Scions in terms of skill, because the Scions have that practical experience in war zones that I think the Lucifer Blacks tend to lack.
Now. I will say the Scions are cool, but how do we make them cooler? Kasrkin.
The Kasrkin have a cooler look. That's true.
Kasrkin are they are a specific Tempestus Scion regiment that is only trained and raised on Cadia, now wherever Cadia is recruiting from. But they are a branch off of Tempestus Scions.
Yeah, you can think of these guys like stormtroopers from Star Wars, but with way better aim.
Yeah.
Way better aim. They also are equipped with very advanced war gear compared to a standard Imperial Guardsman. They have reinforced carapace armor. They carry hotshot las guns, which can burn through most armor. They have special weapons, special superior communications device, targeting gear. Tactically, they tend to operate in small, self-contained squads, and they're used mostly for surgical strikes, like killing enemy leaders, destroying key infrastructure, boarding actions, deep insertion missions, or acting as shock troops at critical moments.
Grav shoot insertions.
Yeah, they can do it all. They can do all of that. These are the special forces of the Astra Militarum.
Weirdly enough, they're the actual Marines.
Their training and upbringing creates a culture of very strict discipline and fanatical loyalty to the Imperium, but they also have a sense of separation from the regular Astra Militarum guardsmen. These guys, typically your typical Astra Militarum guardsman will look at a Tempestus Scion and scoff, not because they suck, but because they get all the glory and they get all the fun toys and they get all the respect, which is not unlike how special forces operators are seen sometimes by grunt soldiers, at least in the U.S. Army. So it can happen. The Scions themselves, they regard themselves as professional elites, is probably the best way I could put it. They have a lot of pride and arrogance that comes along with that. And they earn that because they're expected to undertake the most dangerous missions, usually without any hesitation and usually without any backup. These guys have very high casualty rates in their line of work. So in narrative terms, they are the commandos. They are the guys you send in when you absolutely positively have to have something happen. But they don't typically, again, they're not normally organized as an entire army. They have been fielded as like a regiment, but it's rare.
Yep.
Where would you put the Tempestus Scions?
Now, I do want to mention one thing. The Tempestus Scions did replace the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers as a way of Games Workshop to be able to, copyright them. Because it turns out having something named Stormtroopers is a Star Wars things.
Yeah, when Star Wars exists, you have to have a different name for your Stormtroopers.
So these are a regiment of guard that also work very closely with the Inquisition.
That's okay. So the Inquisitional Stormtroopers is very old lore, and I know because I was there. Again, I'm sorry, I hate to be that guy, but don't speak to me of the old Magic Witch. I was there when it was written. In fourth edition, they were when they produced an Inquisitional Codex, they mentioned Inquisitorial Stormtroopers. And at that time, all we had was the old metal Stormtroopers and the Kasrkin. Okay. And somewhere in between 2003 and 2008, that whole thing went away because the head of IP, Alan Merritt, did not want the Inquisition having armies under its control. It wanted the Inquisition to be guys that went out and found or bargained for armies rather than walking around with its own personal army. Okay. And so they got rid of the idea of Inquisitional Stormtroopers. Now, I think it has made a comeback in more recent era, like the last 10 years. I think they've mentioned it a few times that there are Inquisitional Stormtroopers that work for the Inquisition. But my understanding is that the lore that the lore that you really want to focus on with the Tempestus Scions is that they are not bound to the Inquisition. They're not a force that the Inquisitors call upon very often.
No.
They can be called upon, but they're not a go-to.
Yeah.
The Death Watch is really cool. The Death Watch is the go-to.
Death Watch are the Sisters of Battle. Well, the Sisters aren't bound to the Inquisition is the whole thing where
that's also from that era. That's also an Alan Merritt. Like they don't have armies. They're just Inquisitors.
Even though multiple Inquisitors have called upon entire regiments of Sisters,
and that is a thing they can do. It's just I think Alan at the time had a very specific thing he wanted to avoid evoking in the lore, and he wanted to just like emphasize that. That's a whole. That's decades ago, and it's a whole different ball game now because the Roundtree regime took over Games Workshop. 15 years ago.
Yeah,
and it's been very different since then. So they may still exist. I think they might still exist. Anyway, but regardless, the Tempestus Scions are not those guys.
No.
Where would you put them?
I think Tempestus Scions are cool. They definitely have some good rules in 10th edition. But honestly, they're really good. I just don't like them. I do not like the way they look. I think their models look really, really bad. And I know I'm in the minority here, but I really, really don't like their look. I think they're solid, like top of C tier.
I like their look a little more than you do, I think. But that's mostly because I remember the old metal stormtroopers. And they are leagues ahead of those guys. I would say B, personally.
So bottom of B?
Yeah, bottom of B is fine. Also, Survivor, I see you, buddy. I see you, because he made this comment. See battle droids, now known as Battletech. I know... You, sir, you are probably a man of a certain age if you remember battle droids. There you go. The very first version of Battletech was called Battle Droids, in case you didn't know. And they got cease and desisted by Lucasfilm, so they changed the name. All right, and the last one we're going to cover today are the Valhallans.
Valhallans are cool. This is the regiment that Caiaphas Cain often attaches himself to.
Yes.
He loves them. Funny enough, Valhallans are mentioned in a Sister of Battle short story because they separate their regiments via gender.
They do.
And a lot of people think that that's very stupid, myself included. But in terms of Warhammer 40k, the Sisters of Battle mentioned that they will only drop in dropships with the Valhallan women. Because they will not share a dropship with men, because Sisters of Battle are very much anti-men. And I think that's super funny.
Come on. Okay. Now, that is a stereotype. The Sisters of Battle...
As in, they will not travel, they will not include, and they will not, like, tolerate men in their arms.
Okay.
So when they were transporting together, they went with the Valhallan women, which I just thought was super funny.
I'm just going to say that is not true of all Sisters of Battle. That's probably true of that particular convent.
I mean, that was Order of a Martyred Lady.
Order of a Martyred Lady. Okay, I that may be true of them, but there are definitely sisters who are not men-hating, man haters.
Oh, no. I don't think they hate men. It's just they're so indoctrinated into what they know that they will just be like, oh, no, men can't travel in dropships with us.
I think a better way to say it is that they're more comfortable in
Yeah.
an environment
Also,
of
men are
women
scared of
warriors.
sisters, which is hilarious.
Again, that's a sweeping statement that I don't think is entirely accurate.
I mean, Caiaphas Cain even mentions it.
He's
He
not
calls
scared
them,
of them. He's wary. He's not frightened,
yeah,
though.
he calls
Uh,
them men eaters.
well, that's Kane, though. The Kane novels, as you well know, Alexis, the Kane novels are not necessarily a good representation of 40k because they are very humorous. They're the very light side of the grimdark. So
I
I don't know
love
if
that.
that's accurate. I'm going to push back and say there are definitely convents of sisters who are man haters. That's true.
Well, yeah,
But
there's
I don't think
also
that is all sisters everywhere. I think that is some in some areas, not all in all areas.
oh yeah, we also find out in another novel that sisters are not celibate. So,
so there's that.
like,
I just wanted to push back for a second because I think it's a bad idea to say all sisters are man haters because they're definitely not.
oh no, no, not at all. I
All
mean,
right,
some are
so
making love to men. They found that out in a book.
okay, let's get back to the Valhallans. So the Ice Warriors of Valhalla, they come from an ice world, which is called Valhalla, and it is a planet that basically is locked in eternal winter, and it has vast frozen wastes with huge subterranean cities. The Valhallans have carved out pretty massive settlements under the ice, and they live in these giant cave complexes. Hey, we've got a super chat from Necroplayer. The big reason I like the Firstborn versus the Ice Warriors is that I love the Streltsy / Ukrainian mix aesthetic more than the Red Army look. Oh, that's very valid. Absolutely valid. We have a model of the Hollands, though, very recently, which is Jurgen from Kane and Jurgen.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to bring that up, we can show that off to show what a Valhallan's look is essentially. They are basically the Red Army of the Winter War, if you want to think of it in terms of their looks. But they are not, I wouldn't say they're culturally based on that. The Valhallans, go ahead.
Oh no, I just have to find the Valhallans.
Yeah, so these massive subterranean cities that they live in means they have a lot of problems with overcrowding and shortages and constant hardship. So they are a very stoic and fatalistic people. They've been attacked by orcs many times, and in the Kane novels, it's mentioned that the Valhallans hate orcs above all other enemies. They're obvious. Go ahead.
Makes sense for them.
The obvious real-world inspiration is the Soviet Union in World War II, with all the greatcoats, the massed infantry, and the endless snow. The typical Valhallan battlefield doctrine is static defense, attritional warfare, siege operations. They really prefer a lot of artillery. I would say the Kriegsmen have more artillery than the Valhallans, but the Valhallans are a close second. They often go with massed infantry as well, and they're willing to accept enormous casualties. Jurgen is the guy on the right in this image. He's a Valhallan. You can see the obvious greatcoat there and the winter hats. And God, he's an ugly little bastard, isn't he? Jesus.
Yes, I love him.
Notice that Kane has skulls on his boots, which I always enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
The Valhallans obviously are well adapted to cold or hostile environments where warmer weather troops might fare worse. They're often portrayed as grim and sarcastic, but they have a bond that's built from shared suffering. And they respect commanders who share their hardships and are quick to despise those they see as wasteful or cowardly, which is ironic given that Kane is very much considers himself a coward and has attached himself to the Valhallans many times.
Yep.
But they do respect Kane for sharing in their hardships, even though he is often bundled up far more than they are in the cold. They're always like, at least he's out here with us. In fiction, they channel the archetype of the unbreakable winter soldier. Not like Bucky, they don't have metal arms.
They should.
But they don't complain very often, and they march through the snow to fire their artillery barrages upon the enemy without without flinching. So the Valhallans are a very strong regiment with a lot of good lore, and they have been part of 40k since second edition. They've been around a long time.
It's actually really cool to see that they're making a comeback.
I
Like,
agree.
I hope they get rules. Like,
Red Rook says, I love the Valhallans look personally. I'd love if they made a new model line for them. I would too, especially if they embrace the idea of the characters from the Kane books.
mm-hmm. Again, there is one problem with making all of these regiments into models, and it's that you flood the store with 400 different boxes that aren't going to sell.
They compete with each other.
Yeah, that are all roughly the same. I absolutely love the Valhallans. They have some cool old models.
Yeah,
Chekhov.
Chekhov is one of the named characters, Survivor points out.
I don't imagine Games Workshop making the Valhallans anytime soon. I'm going to be very real with you because, kind of the war.
John Dane says, didn't the Valhallans have a general known for sending waves of infantry? His rule was send in the next wave. I think that's Chekhov.
Yep.
And that's very Russian World War II. Yeah, the current political climate with the war in Ukraine makes these guys a little problematic. I wouldn't say I think their look is sufficiently different to avoid major issues, but I do understand that they are low priority for a number of reasons, one of which would be, the current war.
Yeah. I think Jurgen is probably as much as we're going to get for the next 3 years.
Survivor points out, so attrition warfare, you got Valhallans, there's Kriegers, there's Orcs, there's Tyranids, and then there's Chekhov and his tactics, which is the guy who sends in wave after wave of infantry.
I said wave after wave of my own men.
We will choke them on our dead. Where would you put the Valhallans on the list?
I mean, the Kane novels are absolutely incredible.
They're fire.
We did just get a model of Jurgen. So they're not as cool as the Krieg, though. Like, I'm going to be blunt with you that the Kriegers have Kogvu is tearing apart a bag in the background. I am so sorry. I want to put them in B tier. I think they're fine in B tier. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah. Maybe a little bit better than the Mordians. But I don't think they're Krieg level.
They don't have the Mordians lack novels. That's the main reason.
Yeah.
The Valhallans, let's put it this way. If it weren't for the Kane novels, the Valhallans would be probably C or D tier.
Yes.
They'd
probably be D.
C. Well, yeah. They would not be they would be far lower without the Kane novels. The Kane novels really make them good. So this is our list. This is our tier maker. Where Cadians being an S tier makes sense, even though it was bought, but I do think that they are more likely a B tier to because everyone's based on them.
Yes, I will agree with that, but they are the gold standard of guardsmen.
Vestroyans probably belong in B tier.
Yeah.
Necromunda spiders don't even belong on this list. I'm sorry. The Fusiliers, we had them in D for a reason. Steel Legion, I think I would probably still put back into bottom of B or C.
I'd put them in A.
Tanith deserve S.
Tanith definitely do, yeah.
Bronzian Long Knives in A. That's not where I would have put them, but I love that they're there.
I can't believe they're higher than Catachans.
And the Talaran being an A makes sense. That's I think a very valid place to put them. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Krieg being top of B makes perfect sense. Valhallans, Mordians, the Chem Dogs, they don't have all three of those do not have official models. The Maccabians being high uppers, that's obviously part of my bias. They're just so damn cool. The Scions also being in B tier makes sense because they are real. I think they're cool looking. I know you don't think they're cool looking.
Nope.
I kind of hate
Big
their
dumb.
vehicle. I hate their vehicle, the Tarox. I think it's terrible.
I like the Torox.
So we're gonna.
It's terrible.
So we're split on that.
I think the new half track is just way better looking, though.
That's the wagon that the Commissar rides in. Yeah.
That's that's an armored version of it. Yeah.
Praetorians a C tier makes sense. Elysians a C tier hurts me, but unfortunately makes sense.
Yeah.
Catachans, I kind of feel like we may want to reevaluate the Catachans. It feels bad that they're so low in C tier. Their models are ugly as sin, that's true, but they do have great characters and they've been around a long time. I think the Catachans have earned maybe bottom of B.
All right, yeah.
I'm going to argue for slightly higher because they did have a full model range. They do have great characters. Their world is really neat.
But their models are hideous.
They are. And that's why I'm like, ugh. Bottom of B, maybe top of C.
I'd say it's top of C.
Okay, I hate that, but that's fair.
It's C for Catachan.
There you go. C is for Catachan. That's good enough for me. Oh yeah, we got a comment here from Red Rook. I should have played, but I appreciate you guys putting Talarn so high. Thank you. Yes, we like Talarn. We like the Desert Raiders.
Yeah.
The Lucifer Hawks, important in terms of being in a lot of books, but not having any models.
They're just kind of okay.
Yeah, I almost think we ought to move them down.
Oof.
Okay. I feel like them and the Last Chancers are about on the same level.
All right, yeah.
Maybe they're a little bit better than the Last Chancers because they have so many mentions in the novels and so many mentions in the.
I wish the Last Chancers were actually cool. Like that's the problem with them.
Right.
But the Last Chancers, if they were cool, would be the Tanith.
Well, the Tanith are what if Last Chancers but a whole regiment? Not quite. The Last Chancers are far more criminals, far more untrustworthy than the Tanith. The Tanith are loyal men. Through. The Last Chancers, they have to wear bomb collars to go into combat. There's a very big difference there. Schaefer is a real bastard, whereas Gaunt does have a good heart.
A good guy.
Well, I mean, there are no good guys in 40k. Gaunt is a lot less bad than most commissars. And he actually seems to care about the Tanith, which Schaefer does not seem to care about the 13th Penal Legion. So
yeah,
I think this is our ranking. I think this is where we end up. Anything you'd want to move around?
Hang on a second. This is a super chat, I believe.
Sean DeWolf, should we move someone up or down based on how their naval strength is? Do any of these regiments have a naval arm of note, or is that a separate combat arm? That's so glad you asked.
It is a separate combat arm. That's Imperial Navy.
That is. So in the Horus Heresy, in the Great Crusade, let's put it that way. During the Great Crusade, prior to the Horus Heresy, the army of the Imperium was all combined. You had ships, you had regiments, you had tanks, the Titans were technically the Titans were part of this. So like everything was under one massive organization. And so when the Horus Heresy happened, you had half of everything fighting against half of everything else. And they reorganized almost all of the Imperial military after the Horus Heresy. And one of the big things they decided to change was to split up the Army and the Navy into two separate organizations, the Imperial Guard, or the Astra Militarum, and the Imperial Navy. The Imperial Navy does not just operate the spaceships, although that is their primary function. Their primary function is to, drive ships around. But the Imperial Navy also does all the aeronautica support. So Valkyries, bombers, jets, fighters, supply ships, anything that flies in the air typically is Imperial Navy, not Imperial Army, not Astra Militarum. And so they have to liaise between these two organizations to support one another in a combat zone. Like I said, there's a very good reason for that, and that's the Horus Heresy. So
there was a very weird time during 6th edition where Sisters of Battle had access to Avenger Strike Fighters. And it was so weird. And they had it for quite a while, like all of 6th edition. Then 7th edition, somebody's like, hey, wait a second, they're not supposed to have that. I just
So
thought that was super cool.
that's the answer for you there, sir. I do see a point here about the last chancellors are basically penal legion with some personality.
Yeah.
I would argue that these Keb dogs are a better example. They're if you want to talk about like a really good penal legion, I would say the Keb dogs. And they're the only penal legion on the list other than the last chancellors.
Yeah. And those are really cool because you can convert them from Gene Stealer cultists, which is really cool.
You just love the fact that they're cultists.
I love the fact that they're just a bunch of drug addicts.
Listen, your name is Norn Queen Alexis. Your loyalties lie with the Tyranids. We get this.
Yes,
we get
a little bit.
So you're like, ooh, they converted somebody from a Gene Stealer cult. Well, gee, Alexis, I wonder why you like them.
Man.
I'm just messing with you. You know that's true.
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you. We do have a comment here from Sean DeWolf. He says, I'm sure there's some messiness of some sort of Imperial Marines, Navy guys who have small arms and artillery. The Navy does not have artillery, but they do have what are called
breacher teams.
Breacher teams, and they carry shotguns and riot shields. They are a kill team, if I'm not mistaken.
There's also the Voidsmen at Arms, but
right.
They're generalists. They're not really Imperial Navy. I could actually check if the Imperial Navy has anything else. I think it's just Navy breachers.
Armsmen, I think is what they're called.
The Voidsmen at Arms
or
are
Voidsmen,
the other ones.
Voidsmen at Arms, yeah. They're the same thing, I think. Which is basically...
Well, one operates with rogue traders, the other one doesn't. Well, technically both do, but you know what I mean.
The point I'm trying to get to, though, is that if you are fielding those guys, they're not soldiers. They're sailors who are pressed into service as soldiers. Their primary function is to operate the starship, and under times when you absolutely positively have to put bodies on the ground to do something, that's when you call out the Voidsmen. The breacher squads, those are more like, they're more professional in terms that they serve functions on the ships more like a shore patrol or security functions. Like they're trained for that, whereas the Voidsmen are not necessarily trained as soldiers, or if they are, it's like, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year kind of situation, and the rest of the time they're running the ship. So that's the difference between those groups. You will not see artillery or tanks from the Voidsmen, and you won't see fighters or bombers amongst the Astra Militarum unless it's from the Imperial Navy. There are a few exceptions to this, like the Fantine we talked about earlier in the episode. The Fantine is an Imperial Guard regiment that, due to the unique nature of their world, they only operate planes, and they're therefore like folded into the Imperial Navy. But they're from a novel series, and they're not something you see a lot in the codexes or rule books. So there you go. So that is going to take us to the end of the episode. I will go ahead and take down the tier list. Thank you guys for participating in today's show.
I thought it was really good. I'm glad that Talarn went as high as they did. That was one of the, weirdly enough, the Talarn book was one of the first Horus Heresy books I read.
Really?
Yeah, I picked it up at a store, and I was just like, all right, this book has a tank on the cover. Let's read it. And it was one of the better books in the Heresy that I've read, because there are a lot of good books in the Heresy, and then there's a lot of really boring ones.
Yeah, it's a mix. There's some highs and lows, I would argue. That's certainly true. If people want to find you on the internet, where would they look for you?
They look for this name right here, or it's over here. I don't know which one. This. There we go. I do a lot of stuff on the internet. We never introduced ourselves, but
did we forget? Oh, we sure did.
Yeah.
Okay, who are you, Norn Queen Alexis?
I am Norn Queen Alexis. I do Viking reenacting. I am an actress, which is now cool. I could say that now because I am in 2 published commercials now. I need to find the second one. But I do a lot of my Viking stuff on TikTok, on YouTube. I occasionally stream whenever I remember it. I am a commissioned painter. I am currently painting a Thunderhawk, which is really cool. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I play way too much 40k.
Survivor asks, who wrote the To Learn book? John French, personal friend of mine, and also an author who worked on a whole bunch of the Warhammer 40k roleplay line. Very, very good writer. Used to be head of Games Workshop's licensing department for a while. Very, very cool dude, John French. My name is Ross Watson. I am a game designer and author. I have worked on a whole bunch of books for Warhammer 40k roleplay. Most prominently, I'm the guy who literally wrote the book on Rogue Traders and the Death Watch. A lot of stuff I've written has ended up in Core 40k, and I also worked on several video games for 40k, and I was part of the US White Dwarf team for a couple of years. So I know my 40k fairly well. That's who I am. You can also find me streaming a couple times a week at twitch.tv/the-Ross-Watson, and we're about to wrap up our Final Liberation campaign from the Warhammer Classics. So check that out. Oh,
and remember.
Special note. Oh. Next episode is our season finale, The Fall of Cadia.
Hell yeah. And remember, party people, in the grim darkness of the far future,
there is only lore.
Go nuts.
Cheers.
Asketig.